gotta roll up and now. See you from afar, got my thoughts in the sky. Where we used to kiss, sunshine, shit, and why? You gotta call me every day, pretend you my baby. I see more real out there lately, it's crazy. Yeah, we could be the same as we claim in this kingdom shit and keep it tame. Come on, baby girl, we're not the same. Two different speeds, but we keep it one lane. Yeah, what goes around comes around. Keep 100, y'all. Do this for my soul like a dawn. Put the stereo on.
Put your hands in the air, we'll be alright. Oh, yeah. You keep messing up my mind, but I love your style. You know I
put the place up. Put my face up.
You better turn up. You better be there when I shake. Watch me rockin' if I can't stop. If I should fall, just go ahead. Go and catch me, baby. You better grab that tambourine. Break the bass, we might be wicked. We may be forced to cause a scene. Make some trouble, baby. Turn it up, turn it up. Turn it up, turn it up. Turn it up, turn it up. Turn it up, turn it up.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us here at the SMITE Global Series. Finch joined by Taco as we take a look at Brazil today. More specifically, it's going to be No Ping going up against ETIS, and very excited to see how these two teams are going to end up battling it out.
It's definitely bound to be a pretty aggressive brawl between these two teams. Everybody's always just really focused on trying to work their way up in those standings.
That's right. In fact, let's go ahead and get them on the screen. It's going to be our second and third place team. They're going to be battling it out. No Ping 3-1 right now, only a little bit behind Black Dragons, so nipping right at the heels. In fact, if they're able to grab this victory, they'll be able to tie it up 4-1. On the other hand, if ETs can grab it, then they'll be right there 3-2. Also one game behind Black Dragons.
If anything, Black Dragons probably got their fingers crossed that No Ping don't manage to pull it off.
That's
and
right.
It's not going to be an easy one. ETS have already proven that they can definitely take sets off of some of these other teams, and whether or not you want them to be as close as they are, and No Ping know that they're right behind them also.
That's right. They got to make sure that they're maintaining their focus here in the set, because sometimes it can be kind of easy to drop some games, especially up against a team as strong as ETS is. So got to make sure that they're keeping it consistent. As we do have those picks and bans ready, we'll move right on into them, Doc.
Not to mention that securing these sort of sets are like the kind of that's kind of the answers that you need if you want to go up against Black Dragons. I mean,
Absolutely.
They have been such an established team for so long in Brazil that you need to be prepared well in advance before going off against them. And No Ping, this is a strong chance for them to really show that they have what it takes to stay right there next to Black Dragons.
And we really are seeing that talent kind of start to slowly move down as everyone gains more experience. Some of those world champion teams have kind of split apart. You know, some of those players are elsewhere, giving their experience off on other squads. So it's really starting, I feel like, to build up. The whole region in general is getting much stronger. That's what we're seeing in here. This is going to be, I imagine, a very good match for the second and third place teams. And what do you know, Taco? Athena getting prioritized right away, even over some of our other newer gods.
Can't say either of us is probably too surprised at that one. But speaking of which, global presence for global presence, ETS are going to make sure to take up the Giannis. And I like this response towards the Athena. You have an ability now to rotate the entire team and only adding more to it with that Chernobog selection. And Chernobog, he's been such an interesting pick lately. I mean, yesterday was the first time that we actually got a real chance to observe how he interacts with the rest of the gods in SMITE, and well, I'd say it's pretty strong performances.
This is so interesting, though, right? That you talk about Chernobog and his global mobility and his early clear. He has a whole lot of things going for him here, but No Ping don't seem deterred by that. They don't ban it. They don't pick it. In fact, they pick one of the least mobile gods you can pick to be in the lane up against him. No way Artemis is going to be rotating with this Chernobog. Very clearly about just kind of chilling in lane, getting to the point where she's swinging, not worrying about this Chernobog.
I think the big thing here is No Ping just want to ensure that their hunter actually has a very viable option for the turn and burn feature. Chernobog, it's no real shocker to anybody that he's got a crazy attack speed stim, very similar to that of Artemis, 70% I believe for Chernobog at max rank, and so these two can definitely go back to back in terms of boxing, but as far as who's going to come out on top, it's hard to call it. That'll be a close one. Chernobog with that with the passive from his ultimate, it's perfect. Living Nightmare giving so much damage mitigation is exactly what you want if you're trying to head back into the lane immediately and look to punish an immobile Artemis.
Now, as you mentioned, that Boar probably would deter him at least somewhat from wanting to dash into her with the ultimate and land down and immediately try to box the Artemis, but not much in way of deterring Chernobog from just going elsewhere and suddenly getting some assists, some kills. Now, the Athena, there's going to be a lot of pressure, I feel like, on this Defender of Olympus to make sure that they're getting the most out of it and following where this Chernobog goes, because they also have the Giannis, a ton of mobility on that card.
Well, that's also another reason why I like the Artemis pickup, though, is because of the fact they already have Athena locked in, so you know that your hunter is never truly going to be alone if need be. It all depends on how No Ping decide to use that Defender of Olympus, but as far as the rest of their draft is concerned, Poseidon and Daji, a lot of control, a lot of heavy CC, but it's not always guaranteed. That's the main issue that I think could be problematic for No Ping, is that they're relying pretty heavily on this Athena taunt, it feels.
Yeah, the Athena taunt is going to be a lot of the setup. Palau is not bad setup either, especially if they can force beads with the taunt, so maybe they can have Poseidon follow up on that, but they're going to need to make sure they grab it because, I mean, Giannis can avoid the CC with his through space and time. They have a lot of options to make sure that they're not the ones getting pulled back in, so they are going to have to, as you said, capitalize very much off the Athena taunt.
Well, Oship and Zito, man, they also can... They're probably the only two without CC immunity on their ultimates, right? So that's kind of where you expect Jules to shift more attention towards, at least during the earlier portions. That way, just in case Oship does like to use that Fear No Evil in an aggressive moment, you still have the response from the Palau. Reflex is going to be critical here for the Daji especially.
There's going to be Dentola and Felzera here going in the dual lane up against XT. And hit a man. As they hang out over in the dual lane, is going to be the Ganesh going along with the Chernobog, and we talked a little bit about how good Chernobog's clear is. Level 1, it's okay, but as soon as he's able to drop that first ability and pop it, he's going to be out-clearing this Artemis pretty heavily. That's when he's going to be freed up to start kind of moving into this jungle a little bit more, around that level 3 mark or so.
And you don't really expect either side to look for the invades. I think they both have enough guaranteed clear that it's just going to be a stalemate during the laning phase. Maybe a little bit more favored towards No Ping's duo just because you have the Artemis with the crit on her passive. So in case a couple of those manage to connect against XT or Zito Man, then they'll be a little concerned. Speaking of concerns, Purification Beads on the Ganesh.
Apparently he was right, because he is about to get taunted back in to almost certain destruction there. But as you mentioned, he has the Purification Bead. So once Dentola is ready to drop the sprint, again, it is that upgraded sprint with that haste effect, which can be so strong early on, they won't have their own sprint to counter. Certainly kill potential here for No Ping, especially with them already being the ones with wave pressure as they're moving up beyond the wave. Taunting in XT, not able to find any more follow-up damage, but they've got kind of all the aggression.
And keep in mind, Felizetta still needs to try and avoid some of those auto attacks from XT. One of the main issues that you have is dealing with that Heart of Cold passive for the Chernobog. Gives him bonus damage, and once he connects a few of those auto attacks, and you want to make sure that you don't get caught in the explosion radius for that.
Absolutely not. We end up taking a little bit of extra damage. It's part of what makes him so strong is his boxing potential, but Oship is here to try and help take down Spexzilla very early on. Meditation is going to help out. Oship finds first blood. Spexzilla is the one that ends up going down. Margot Anna pulling him back in.
Just so unfortunate for No Ping, considering how much pressure their dual lane has been able to acquire in such a short period of time. Just a couple moments longer, but can't blame Margaret for not hanging on there. XT going to lose those Purification Beads. All eyes onto the Ganesh, but Xenoman makes it safely back underneath the tower.
Is able to dash right away. So even though earlier on, this Ganesh had used the beads, didn't have him there to defend just now, and XT still wasn't feeling punished enough to have to worry about using his either. Both of them managed to make it out of there without any kind of chance for response, and that was a very important gank because, as you said, they did just kind of OSHIP had the pressure of in Soul Lane. He was the one that made the rotation. They found the kill. So coming back and punishing Duo would have been their response, but they weren't able to get anything.
It's hard to immediately shift the attention away. It would have been nice to have if you're noping, but they still have a little bit of pressure going for them in that Duo lane. Whether or not it'll eventually lead into a kill is to be determined, but so far, so good, I would say, overall. Despite having lost the first blood, the only real difference between these two teams currently is just that 400 gold disparity.
That's really it. Other than that, things have been okay, but that's kind of the whole idea. You know, a lot of people are always like, well, I just got ganked, where was my jungler? Well, they don't always have to literally be right on top of the other jungler, as long as they're doing something sort of equivalent, if not better, elsewhere on the map. This time, where OSHIP was ganking solo, Jules was coming over to Duo. Even with the two-man taunt, though, they couldn't find any follow-up, so that's where the tiny bit of advantage does kind of come from.
Jules not finding a kill in the end there in comparison to OSHIP is the reason why he's not 5 yet, but bound to hit it pretty shortly here, and as soon as he does, everybody on ETS has purification beads of some sort, and then there's the meditation for the Hercules, but CC immunity on that boulder makes it very difficult for Jules to have an ideal target so early on. Probably going to have to sit and wait until some itemization becomes more available, and then once the power spikes are in place, Noping might start to play a little bit more aggressive.
It's so interesting, too, because it really feels like everyone is saying, I don't want to get controlled, except for Margoanna, who's kind of saying, I just want to heal through it. You know, just you can pull me in, I guess, and I'll just live. Dentola in a lot of trouble here on the duo lane, though. It's owned. XT finds the shots. That's 2 kills now in total for ETs. They respond. Kraken comes out, though, on the cake. That's going to bring him down. Jules finally gets a return for no ping.
It was something out of nothing. Dentola was not expecting the damage. It was the burst from the Crystallized Curses, immediately followed up with the Vicious Barrage, and there is almost no escape from that auto attack spam. Speaking of which, Falzetta in a little bit of trouble here. Going to toss out that Suppress the Insolent, apply the slow onto XT, and really well-timed trap. Made sure that Zito wasn't going to be able to follow up, because if he does go for the dash for the secure hold in place, he probably gets hit with a Transgressor's Fate.
I like what we saw, though. That was XT using the dash to get the max range by going into the wall and then getting that sort of second dash that ends up coming out of it instead of just dashing directly forward to try and catch up as close as possible to Felzera. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get quite into auto attack range. As you pointed out, the trap that was put down really helped create some space for Felzera as well. But XT, I think, showing a little bit of comfort here on this Chernobog already, despite the god being relatively new.
The silence, too, was huge from Zito, man. Made sure that Dentola couldn't try and dash away. For the longest time, he was just trapped between the creep wave and the Ganesh. And all that little body blocking eventually added up. Nowhere left to run. You're rooted inside of that Crystallized Curses. You're kind of just waiting to die.
And we've seen some different build paths here for the Chernobog, you know, at least, you know, outside of the SPL. But going with the Devourer's Gauntlet here from XT, these auto attacks can be so strong. I've seen some builds where they go like Transcendence and try and build off his ability damage because he has so much of it. But he also, as you said, has an insane attack speed steroid. So nothing wrong at all with going the Devourer's Gauntlet route.
It's so difficult to not want to go for the Devo Gloves route on the Chernobog. That Vicious Barrage alone, anything that gives you a 70% attack speed. And speaking of which, Kai just going to make it through, at least manages to burn the beads out of OSHIP, but Powwow coming up short.
Not quite able to catch out the Giannis. It's so difficult to. But you're exactly right. Devourer's Gauntlet, because this is what we were talking about earlier, Devourer's Gauntlet's so good, especially on someone like XT who's going to be able to get off so many extra auto attacks, who's encouraged with the way that his passive works, with, as you said, that second ability to attack more often. So there's certainly nothing wrong with going this route. In fact, he'll benefit from it greatly, will XT.
Also, taking a look at Noping's front line, I think that if Spexzilla isn't able to time the disarm appropriately, then XT is probably going to have a free reign in a lot of these team fights. I think there's just a little bit more peel on the side of ETS, and right now, Noping are again, just trying to really work around this Athena taunt, work around the Daji's Powwow. So it's not really that guaranteed of a crowd control. They're relying so heavily on this Athena taunt that if she doesn't find it, well, you come up short with the Kraken.
Well, I like it, though. It was right there from Silva as if it had landed, and that's kind of what you need from your mid laner. Unfortunately, the taunt just did not, so no one was pulled back in. Kraken wasted there. He's going to come back and grab the red buff, but that gives a little bit of freedom now over to ETs here for a little while, where they don't have to worry about that big wombo combo.
That's a lot of trust, though.
It's a lot, isn't it? It's good.
That's
Maybe.
what you need to happen.
Yeah.
Dentola calls it and thinks that he had it, but unfortunate in the end. Oship, however, might have bit off a little bit more than he can chew. Gonna get that Sacred Monkey Toss off onto Falzetta, but won't opt to teleport to it. Seems as though the Artemis was tucked away just a little bit too deep into Noping's jungle for Oship to really be able to justify any further aggression there.
They really have, though, gone pretty all in on trying to limit this control as Jules goes an aggressive Ohm. Does force out the Purification Beads and go up and use the Pala. Oship does get pulled back in. Fear No Evil creates some space. Silva takes down the monkey early on. Now he's on the retreat path. He's getting chased out. Chernobog went up to the air. His target, though, going to be Jules. Can't find the auto attacks. Dentola going to force him away.
Oh, Falzetta's got to be careful. Still has that boar available. Going to end up dropping it. Zitoman completely controlled right now, and Spikezilla's made the rotation.
Oh, but K has so much damage. Comes back and blows him up with the unstable Vortex. Felzera there as well. XT is going to fall. The rotation over doesn't quite prove fruitful on the side of ETs. They lose quite a few members, but at the very least, they do get Dentola.
A clean 2-for-1, though, overall for Noping, and
Yes.
that's going to tie up the scoreboard one more time. Pretty much only a 200 gold disparity between these two teams. Some mild experience leads, but not really too favored one direction or the other just yet. This is still a break-even game.
Kraken is used. That's going to get the two-man knockup. Whirlpool comes down afterwards. Double kill for Silva. Now trying to get his way away from Oship, who has the slows, has the damage. Whirlpool creates the space taunt to pull Margot Anna away. Silva perfectly controlling Oship. How is he still alive? Jules takes him down. Now Margot Anna's trapped in the Whirlpool and getting control. There's no way. They find another kill. Zera comes up big.
Everything off of the back of Silva for that one.
That was
That
insane.
was insanity. The fact that he goes in 2v1, drops the Kraken, not even using the Whirlpool early in advance, just fully expecting that knockup to be enough to buy him time for the Whirlpool placed underneath. Zito had nowhere to go. Oship just gets destroyed from the title search follow-up, and then you just have this never-ending chase, and now the map pressure is just split wide open. All that little bit of aggression that ETS were once able to display, I think they're going to have to fall back now. I mean, that was just an absurd amount of burst damage.
He's actually leveling up the Whirlpool. It's maxed already at this point, Tonka. We don't always see this one be one of the ones that's leveled up first, but I mean, he got some value out of it there in that last fight, so why not? As Oship forces to use Fear No Evil, trying to strip away the blue buff. Instead, Spexzilla has Defender of Olympus being channeled. Margot Anna gets taunted right back in. Silva's here, of course, with the knockup into the title surge in the Whirlpool. Margot Anna, though, has survived through it all. Looking for the retreat, actually turning back around. They want to keep fighting.
They need to get out. Jules going to manage to kill Oship in the process. Powwow still happening. Margot going to get pulled back in, but this is a Hercules. Remember how much he just healed?
He did, and he's happy to continue healing. Spexzilla does have the bludgeon available and is going to drop it. Jules needs some help. Might have walked into a bad part of town. XT happy to come grab that kill 1-for-1 so far as Jules had fallen, or rather Oship had fallen earlier. Kay is trying to come over and take down Spexzilla, but that is a Bellona. But all this is creating space for the rest of ETs to come in and grab Pyro.
A great rotation, though, out of the Chernobog. XT being here means that now ETS get the Pyromancer. They win the fight, technically speaking. I mean, they managed to shove back Noping as well as killing Jules in the process. That's ideal, considering that Jules was starting to pull away a little bit from Oship there. And I think this is going to bring him back more in tow with everybody else in this match. Noping, if they're allowed to go freely with their aggression, they need to have some form of punishment. Otherwise, they're just going to continue getting this snowball aspect going. And I think that was a nice delay from ETS, if not a dead stop.
Well, Gold Fury now being looked at by Noping. Oship is here. XT's on his way to come and join. Dintola's very low already. Fear No Evil is going to funnel him back towards Oship, but Oship gets deleted. Felzera removes him. Jules is able to take down K as well with a little bit of help coming out from the Kraken. Hidaman's going to move in. Does help Felzera lock down, but Felzera gets a double. Blows him up the second that he's free to move. Silva wants to chase down the Chernobog as well. Title Surge does push him away, but now they have Dintola crashing in. That's another kill, 4-for-1.
No one is expecting it, but Falzetta is just turning up out of nowhere. These crits also, I mean, you couldn't ask for
nice.
a perfectly timed Life RNG. Doesn't even have any crit items built just yet. It was solely on that passive that he finds a 204 crit, I believe, onto Zeno, man. That just destroys him. Really well-placed Dharmic Pillars there. Also from the Ganesh, it just wasn't enough to give ETS the edge for the members they had available. I think they needed to go all at once, not this trickle-in effect where you just see O-Ship and then another member. It was just 2 1-by-1 from ETS and not enough grouping.
And it seems like they were happy, especially at the beginning, O-Ship in particular, to sort of trade his life away. He felt like Jintola, I think, was a guaranteed kill. He'd probably die for it, but at least remove the Athena. But he didn't even get that kill. Jintola was able to make it out of there, unfortunately, and he ends up trading his life away basically for nothing. But can we talk about how effective this start from Silva has worked? The Chronos pendant with the Mage's Blessing for 30% cooldown plus the passive. His Kraken is constantly up. The Whirlpools are constantly up. It's disgusting.
You would not expect it from a Poseidon to see that first item Chronos Pendant, but with the Mage's Blessing, it's just such an ideal position to be in now, mostly because of the fact that Silva wasn't punished early on enough for this build. I do feel as though this is a little bit greedy.
Oh, yes.
Rushing the pen
Absolutely.
and the cooldown reduction, especially as a Poseidon. But he got away with it. And if it works, it works. You can't knock it. I think that Silva is just undeniably.
Well, to be fair, they tried to punish him, but remember my man made the insanest play I think I've seen in a long time in the mid lane, where he should not have lived, and he's going to die next game times when he doesn't deserve it because he wasted all his extra lives on that play. He used them all right there, Taco, and he's going to get hit by the randomest snipes later on to pay for it.
He had 10 HP more than what he needed. Just look at it
guess.
that way.
Sure. I don't know. I'm worried, man. Through space and times are going to be attracted to him or something down the line to pay back on that one.
Well, you're worried
What
about
a play.
game 2, Finch. And if I'm ETS, I'm worried about this game right now because Jules, like we've already mentioned, really starting to make some moves here alongside of Silva, and I think that this Poseidon-Daji combination has worked out very efficiently for how limited their crowd control can be. Noping is just making sure to control all of their follow-up inside of it, and as a result, ETS are consistently losing out on these team fights.
They're also not getting enough out of the global presence, right? I mean, we haven't seen them use through space and time to bring the, like 3 or 4 members to a side lane and suddenly gank. Or even when XT is making rotations, it's often just to even up a fight they've already lost. As Kraken comes out from Silva, doesn't quite hit home this time, but beads did have to be used, Fear No Evil, to control Silva on the backhand side, but Defender of Olympus mitigated just too much damage. Now XT wants to come rejoin the fray. He'll be picking a target, a sprint to get them away from the slows, but instead he's going to drop right back down, just using it to try and help out the team.
XD probably knows that if he shows up, he's toast. Velzeta is level 15, by the way. This Artemis has kind of been an unsung hero for Noping also, and we've mostly had to pay all mine towards Silva, and for good reason. This Poseidon has really been popping off and working out incredibly well, but you don't get to see all that often.
No.
But I love it. The Poseidon-Daji Athena combination definitely benefiting Noping a lot more than what I initially believed it might, based off of ETS. I just don't think the ETS, like you just mentioned, Finch, have really been properly utilizing their global control.
And I agree with you on that one, Taco. I don't think that they've been able to do it, and I think that is kind of by design by Noping, who've been playing aggressive kind of from minute 1 and just been making some outplays, some good rotations, and definitely have reaped the benefits of it. I mean, nowadays it's not so often that we get to see the mid and the hunter both be ahead of their solo laner in damage, especially this early on. They've been truly battling, and all 8,300 that damage there for Silva is certainly relevant at this point. I mean, the Krakens and Whirlpools have been there. Speaking of hunters and solo laners, they come over to Margoana and catch him off, even with the boulder to avoid getting knocked up. It's just too much damage through space and time, a little bit too late, and Noping are going to be able to get back to the fight.
Spexella doesn't even seem to mind. O-Ship going to take those portals, but Xenoman going to get taunted back in. Eagles rally right on top of the Ganesh, looking for the cutoff point. They're managing it.
Fear No Evil does separate the entire team, but Silva is the one that finds the kill. Not going to get the pull back in onto O-Ship, who manages to avoid that one. Meanwhile, XT has not rotated into the fight just yet. He's going to continue split pushing as Chernobyls like to do. Doesn't have that ultimate, can't rejoin the fight just yet, so just going to do this instead. As Fire Giant being burned by Noping, ET's need to find a way in, not in time. Noping have the Fire Giant, and Jules wants to play aggressive. Is going to use the Trickster Spirit to chase down Cake, finds that kill, lives up against OSHIP, and Felzera comes in to take the last shot.
My hero. All day long there. Jules cannot be thankful enough for having this Artemis on his team right now, because Felzera definitely just saved his life. Without a doubt in my mind. OSHIP hoping to make some sort of a trade out, remove at least one of these Fire Giants from a member of Noping, but well, team name's holding true. They're noping out on dropping this first game, it seems.
Oh yeah, they're saying nope to that, and they're continuing to push the Tier 2 tower on right now. XT did manage to grab the Tier 2 in duo lane. That is some global gold he's earned back for the team. It's a bit of a win condition he's set up, because now his team has an avenue. If they win a big fight, they can come down and grab this Phoenix. But we're at the 18-minute mark. ETs really can't even think about that because of how far behind they are. It's 7,000 gold, and there's still Tier 2 towers in mid and duo for them to go grab and extend it even further.
It's not so much that gold disparity even that I'm taking a look at, Finch, as much as it is the 11,000 in experience.
It's a lot.
It was so close for the first 10 minutes of this match, I would say, and then things were just broken wide open as soon as Silva made that phenomenal play up by the right mid-Harpy choke point. I cannot believe that the Poseidon just casually gets to crack in two people, kill them,
then put the whirlpool
and then
down
survive.
after, and then walk out. Yeah, it's crazy. And you're right, that's why Silva, and that's kind of the play where Silva gets away with this build, I feel like. That's the play that sort of accelerates him ahead of everyone else to where he's now 4 levels up over K in the mid lane, and 3 levels up for Jules over the jungler, Felzera. And this is one of those things that usually Chernobyls do so well is out-farm their opponents. Felzera's 2 levels out in front of this Chernobog. I mean, they're doing such an excellent job. They're the ones, it feels like, with the big global presence, and really, it's ETs.
It just felt like an explosion of energy from Noping. Out of seemingly nowhere, this team just comes together, they start grouping, and then every single one of these team fights, ETS are just getting dismantled, not even having a chance to respond. This Phoenix is already down to half health. Darman Pillar's going to come out now. Dentola falling down half health also, but OSHIP just uses the ultimate, and there's no one to respond to.
Fear No Evil doesn't quite hit, and neither does it through space and time, but Kraken is perfect. Silva takes down Hitman very early on. XT now trying to run for his life, but Jules not going to let him. Taunt back in on Margot Anna. He's going to go join up with his Hunter in the grave. K and OSHIP have to hide out in the fountain, but they're not even permitted that. K gets pulled back out, and Jules on a killing spree. 4 members down for ETs. Noping take the left Phoenix, and 20 minutes into the game, they're taking game 1.
OSHIP's just happy to keep his life for now, and it seemed as though Noping, they were about to. I think if the Titan had been left at 50% health there, they look for the kill on OSHIP first, and then they go for the game end. But what a clean and dominating performance there out of Noping.
It was very, very impressive what we saw from here in this game. And as you said, it felt like it all happened sort of at once. Initially, the game was very even. Really, it was ETs who had gotten off to the faster start, but Noping responded very quickly. We talked about some of the great plays from Silva. Felzera made some great rotations too to get some early kills. And before you know it, they had a huge lead that ETs could not fight into.
It was just so awkward, though, how quickly that lead and that evenness between the two teams diminished so rapidly for ETS, because they really seemed as though they were about to start pulling ahead. OSHIP got off a couple of really nice ganks. They actually led into kills in comparison to Jules, who was kind of struggling a little bit on the Daji, but once that itemization came online for the Daji, I mean, we were waiting for it. We did mention that. I just wasn't expecting it to be that insane of a blow up.
It happened so quickly, and there was really no response from ETs they could do it. And we sort of talked a little bit about what we thought the issues were. They weren't really playing to that global composition that they drafted, really, right? They weren't the ones being the aggressors. At a certain point, Noping took the reins, and they did not let go.
Yeah.
And I can't say that I think it just starts on that play that Silva makes. I mean, 2-man Krakening, both get knocked up, finds the kills there, and then OSHIP can't kill him. It's just crazy.
That play was this is absolutely incredible. I mean, from the very start of it, the way that Silva positions himself, it just doesn't even really make sense, because you're standing.
He should be dead soon, right?
You should die every single time, and then you just can't find it. You
Title
just
surge is
cannot
perfect,
find
too.
it. Oship
There's
only
also-
needed one more auto.
There's also a great taunt happening just off screen there, where the rotation comes in from Dentola to stop Margot Anna, who I think had come in on the Hercules trying to get the
And
kill.
was ready to go
Yeah.
forward. All he needed was one Earthbreaker or even the
Anything.
driving strike.
Yeah.
Auto attack. They could have sneezed on him and found the kill, but
Yeah.
just going to have to let that one go, very much like they had to let go of game 1.
Well, let's go ahead and move into the picks and bans for Game 2, Taco. See what adjustments it is that ETS is going to try and make, because they did get the Chernobog, and that's the thing. I don't know if Chernobog's been a problem, but he hasn't had a whole ton of success in the 1.5 day that he's been competitive.
Well,
right, so
the
far.
Artemis pick also worked out incredibly well for Noping. I
did.
think the fact that ETS revealed that they were going to have Chernobog in the duo lane prompted Noping to prioritize that art pick early on. Artemis, with such great boxing capabilities right now, probably one of the better matchups to take into that Chernobog also, because you have very similar attack speed stims for both of those hunters, and all things combined, I mean, crit passive, that's
It's pretty
another
good.
huge thing. And Noping, despite Artemis not being able to rotate nearly as often as the Chernobog, it didn't really seem to matter in the end there, because at one point I remember a 3-level disparity between those two gods, and
Yes.
it was all in favor of Noping. The fact that you can have your Hunter 3.5, 4 levels ahead of their direct opposition, what do you expect the enemy ADC to do?
There's not really anything you can do from that kind of a disparity. As Noping feeling a need to make no adjustments in this one. They're going to go right back to the Athena for Dentola, and why not? ETs, on the other hand, are going to look for a different look. They've got the Discordia and taking the Artemis away from Felzera. They're going to try something different here in this game.
There could potentially be a Chernobog pick for Noping.
I would like to see it.
I think it could be entertaining for sure, but Thoth gonna also be the next god of choice. I like this because into the Discordia I think might struggle a little bit here in terms of being able to match poke potential. Thoth can sit far back for so long that it's practically impossible for the Discordia to match the same sort of range. One thing I am looking towards though is that golden apple from Discordia. The cripple effect could prevent Thoth from getting off a nice evade and punish.
Well, Habwa comes out, so very likely going to be our jungler, especially with the Discordia already on the map. But I like this from this squad. These feels like previous patch drafts so far without some of these adjustments. The Athena, Thoth, Achiman, a great combination. Achiman so strong in lane. Thoth has tons of synergy with the Athena, but they're going to need to make sure they do something about this Hebo early.
The Habwa is all about the early game suppression. I think that Athena also is a great guy for handling him. And as far as who wins out, Habwa versus Thoth, I think it depends on who just gets the jump start over the other. Thoth has all that range. As long as Noping can manage their spacing away from ETS, I do feel as though this is probably a little bit more favorable for Noping. I think that there's plenty of burst damage from ETS. I like the Kumakarna pickup here because of how much damage they already have in place. They need some heavy peel, but Kumakarna alone might not be enough. I think I want to see another pretty heavy peel, heavy frontline god added on to the draft from ETS.
Well, Noping took a lot of them off the board in the way of the Geb and the Cerberus to try and limit that pool they could pick from. And they go right over to the Kumakarna. Meanwhile, Noping going back a little bit with Camazotz. We don't see him too often, but I mean, with that Bat out of Hell, he's very able to safely return damage onto the likes of a Habwa, the likes of a Discordia. I think this could definitely be a strong pick for him in the jungle.
And the Vampiric Screech also will give him perfect vision over the Discordia, even if she goes into her cloud. So Invis not necessarily going to work out there. And ETS, they're going to take one more god away from Noping with the Bellona.
Trying to take away as much as they can. They banned the Daji, picked the Artemis for themselves and the Bellona this time, so Noping got to go with a slightly different look as we move here into Game 2. See if they can look just as dominant. To be honest, though, they don't have to look as dominant as they looked in Game 1. There's a lot of wiggle room. They were looking real good, so they could still win and look a little bit less clean, and I think still be fine.
Most likely, but Dentola and Felzera, I wouldn't be too surprised to see them get the lane pressure one more time. Need to be careful, though, of this Groggy Strike. Zedoman with the root in place, but great autos out of Felzera. That's going to prompt the sprint, and both sides, sprint means go, but it's all about Dentola falling much lower. He bit up more than he could chew.
Groggy Strike is going to come out. First blood goes over to ETS yet again. Now Felzera is going to get the return kill onto XT. Felzera now looking to try and chase down the Kumakarna as well. Even though first blood goes to ETS, it's the Hunter for Noping who's still here clearing the wave and who got the kill credit.
Despite losing the first blood bounty, I do think that this heavily favors Felzera. Not only is he getting the solo creep XP, but by the time he gets that purple buff, he'll be level 2. Same can't be said for XT. Even with XT catching that wave, or what's remaining of it, he's going to need the purple buff before he finally hits level 2.
And look at XT. He had the Aegis available. Clearly didn't think he was in that much danger there in that fight, as opposed to sometimes the purification beats come out early.
Because his back was turned on looking towards the retreat, he might not have realized the Heavenly Banner dropping right on top of him. Falzetta just managed to get the cooldown forward again. And speaking of which, Xenoman eating just a little bit more poke. Dentola still not swayed from wanting to play aggressive with that taunt.
Absolutely not. I know that he fell, but I think that that worked out for his duo lane, really. He is a little bit behind, but you'd rather have the Hunter level 2 and the support 1 as opposed to what ETs have going on. So this is definitely still a good look for them as Dentola dashes in aggressive.
Just looking for the slows, I believe, against Xenoman. Not even so much for the lane clear, but now that he's level 2, there's the taunt that we were waiting for. And XT, I just realized, Finch, he doesn't have beads. He's in a lane without beads against an Athena.
That's what I'm saying. He had the Aegis and didn't even use it. That's so. Not only does he not have the beads to get away from the taunts, but in the one situation where Aegis would have been better because it was just damage, there wasn't even any control to worry about yet. He doesn't even use it. Taunt perfect to interrupt the groggy strike. Heatman lucky to still be among the living as reach does not quite hit him from the Athena passive.
It was close though, and Xenoman, I'm surprised that he's still playing this far up. One Heavenly Banner and an auto attack. Ijitsu gonna close the gap between these two, and
XT,
now
this
XT.
is ill-advised.
No way, XT.
Ill-advised. I like the idea there to try and body block for your support, but just means that you're going to be in a situation like this where Falzera now has a double kill, 3-0-0. This dual lane's almost lost already, Taco. That's how important what we just saw happen over the last 2.5 minutes was.
Perfectly played between Dentola and Falzetta. Meanwhile, Xenoman and XT, there's no reason for Xenoman to be even remotely within range of a dash Heavenly Banner. He needed to back the second that he managed to survive the first time around, just getting a little bit too greedy for that early wave experience. And one more wave syndrome, it gets the best of all of us, Finch.
It absolutely does, and that does mean now No Ping going to be a little bit ahead over here in the duo lane, 4 and 3 respectively for the Hunter and support. It's been so much action over here, we haven't even really had a chance to talk about how the rest of this map is going. It is going to be O-Ship on that Habois in the jungle. Looked like maybe a little bit experience ahead right now of the Camazons.
Nobody cares about those guys. They're not doing anything right now. We got all the pressure over here in the duo lane. Xenoman taunted in one more time, but in a more in a more serious regard, I do think that ETS are probably scrambling to try and put pressure elsewhere. It's just difficult because looking at the other lanes for Noping, they have a lot of solid, clear potential. There's not really anywhere too concerning, but Spexilla now in a whole world of trouble, gonna get hit by the crushing wave. This could be the end of him.
Spexilla is running for his life. Meanwhile, as soon as we left, there was a kill found over in the duo lane. XT had to take another trip back. Margot does eventually find the kill onto Spexilla and bring him down. So they are at least able to take out the solo laner for No Ping, but problems continue in the duo.
If I'm going to have a side of the map that's winning the Finch, I'd probably want it to be my duo lane 9 times out of 10, simply because then you have the Gold Fury, the red buff, and the purple buff to play off of. We're only 4 minutes in, and Noping's Hunter already has a 2-level lead over XT. This lane is going to be absolutely brutal for the Artemis. Already so immobile, now having to worry about the Aijitsu spam because he doesn't have the board to self-defend. Jules also in the mid lane trying to harass Kai, just tosses out the Vampiric Streach, but going back to it, Falzetta also with the mounted archery. That's another huge thing, is that it's pretty much impossible for XT to avoid.
No, it's very, very scary now for XT here in the dual lane. What he wants more than anything is just to find a way to get level 5. As O-Ship could be in a little bit of trouble. Jules is here, has Defender of Olympus on top, jumped a little bit too late, but Beads comes out preemptively from O-Ship. Golden Apple of Discord is here. Dentola controlled, Dentola deleted. Spexilla does find a nice knockup, but Jules has to retreat. He can no longer help with this fight. Silva looking for some damage over the wall, and Spexilla gonna continue playing aggressive.
And Jules, nobody seems to really be noticing this Camazot. Spexilla still moving forward, managed to take down O-Ship, but we saw Mario ult over the wall with that Eagles rally, trying to aggress onto Jules, but he just whiffed it entirely.
Wasn't able to hit him. Jules is going to be just fine despite that early aggression. Margot Anna coming back in, looking for more trades. Jules still happy to take this fight. Bludgeon comes out, but not going to be enough to deter Spexzilla. Doesn't have any more cooldowns available, so sends Margot back to base. And Margot doesn't have teleport. It's down for another 60 seconds, so that means it'll be a long walk back.
Jules has got to take a little bit more time on connecting with some of those abilities. A big whiff of damage could end up catching up to him later on. Xenoman going to be able to toss Dentola right into the air. This should be the end of it for the Athena, and sure enough, Kai with a great response on that punish for Dentola dashing in too soon.
Yeah, Dentola's kind of been taking him for the team, I guess, at this point. He's really been the target on this side of the map, whereas Spexzilla has been ganked one time by Oship on this Habwa. Silva, though, does find the evade and punish. Jules is right here to try and punish, but Crushing Wave drowns the bat. No chance.
It's a lot of damage. Not sure what Jules is going for. Maybe not expecting the burst to happen so quickly. And Oship kind of just going for it, not even being concerned whether or not Jules is going to use that bat out of hell. He just heads straight over into the Crushing Wave, and there is nothing left for a Camazotz to do. That was also after the water spout had put Jules back on the ground.
Just gets controlled perfectly. Jules, didn't feel the need to use some of these other cooldowns, and instead ends up getting taken down. Now, everywhere else might be pretty close to even, but this dual lane really is not, as Felzera happy to remind XT of with those extended range autos. Now, Kay is over here near this side of the map, or at least at the red buff. Hitoman is too, but I think Felzera undeterred from moving up into the jungle.
Yeah, the Eagle Eye shots from Felzera are going to make it all too easy to keep that poke against XT intact. And more importantly, though, I'm taking a note that it's Oship really starting to make things come alive for ETS here. And Noping, if they don't want to end up losing the lead that they do have in duo, they need to try and get Oship under range, because he has been killing it in the jungle this match.
Zilla trying to come strip away this blue buff. Taunt does land on Margot Anna, but it is just a Kukulkan. They don't have a ton of burst damage back onto this Bellona, even with the taunt, so she's able to just chill underneath the tier 1 tower. Meanwhile, Silva has some damage of his own.
But look at Jules, still sitting at level 6. I feel like we've seen this Camazotz on 6 for way too long. Now going to go aggressive in the mid lane. Xenoman seems to be the target. Bat out of hell will be used, and now Kai still looking for the escape.
So Kai's going to make it back out. They got to put some autos here into Hitoman, and they don't have enough. Epic uppercut actually sends Jules up into the air. Crushing Wave not quite there on the follow-up from Oship. Now Mounted Archery comes in, and Felzera making the rotation on a rampage finds his 5th kill in a row. Oship probably kicking himself a little bit on that one.
Hachiman versus the Habwa seems to be the case here for game number 2 between Noping and ETS. And well, if it had him in for Felzera rotating in, I think that Noping might have just missed out sorely in the mid lane. Jules just doesn't seem to be on the same page, but it might be good enough. No, instead, Oship Purification Beads will be good. Get that slow off of him from the Vampiric Bats and manage to get away.
You're absolutely right, though, that there's no reason why Hitoman should have been able to get back up from that Sleepy Time passive in that situation. They have Jules kind of going for the kill, maybe underneath the tower on Kang, and he doesn't all-in commit onto that. And then he comes back in too late, gets epic uppercutted. Should have come back down into very near death there from Oship, but they were a little bit off the same page on that combination. But it definitely seems like there's a little bit of miscommunication from both squads.
It was just the mild miscommunication in the target focus. Not as severe early on. You can kind of miss out on those kills, but if that were to happen in a late game team fight where Habwa actually has the potential to one-shot you, by then you can't afford to let this Kumbhakarna just go into that passive for free without controlling the rest of his team.
Yeah, and it's not like he had fallen to the passive way behind tower line or, in the enemy jungle and one long range ability had procced it. I mean, he was in the middle of the lane, certainly within range of getting punished, and they just weren't able to get the autos.
Not fully expecting it. Sentry Ward going to clear out the regular ward that ETS just tried to place at the bottom choke point of those left mid Harpies. Gold Fury is available. 10 minutes in climbing now. Wouldn't be surprised to maybe see Noping go for it with how much control Felzera has over this duo lane.
This could be trouble, though. Dentola already very low. Epic uppercut brings him back down, but the apple is too early. They end up getting the kill either way onto Dentola. Jules now has to fall back. Silva did fire off the final judgment and not able to bring down OGG, who is quite low. ET is able to grab a nice pick there onto Dentola yet again.
It's so unfortunate that the final judgment just wasn't enough for OGG. That kill would have been a massive trade-out support for the jungle, especially without OGG's been playing this game, but Noping just gonna have to miss out on another one. Jules starting to remember what farm is all about, and oracles will be secure, but it could cost Jules his life. That's why we see the Bat out of Hell being used almost immediately after.
Felzera has to use Mountain Archery and gets Defender of Olympus so he can make the retreat, and ETs are going to immediately start pulling the Gold Fury in this spot. Now they still have Dentola around. Silva is being forced away. Gold Fury still being looked at. Even coming around the corner here is OGG trying to provide some more control. Taunt comes out, Gold Fury low. ETs are able to grab it. Dentola does punish the Kumbhakarna, so it's one support for the Gold Fury so far.
And now Spexzilla moving forward, trying to find the kill onto Kai. Should be able to connect with it. Kai's looking for the runaway, won't be able to make it out. That passive.
Even if he had, final judgment was there. Silva evade and punish to look for the escape path. Margoana up against 3 members. Does have OGG here in support, but OGG walked into a bad fight. Forced out by Spexzilla. Now no ping are falling bad. They did get one more kill on the Kai, as well as the one on the Hitoman to punish. Between
Vent Anger and the Mystical Male, Spexzilla just has so much small dot damage that you wouldn't expect. Those little ticks eventually stack up, and OGG has no idea that Jules and Spexzilla are making this rotation, trying to farm his back Harpies. Blink gonna go in from Jules, and that's gonna be the connection that they needed because OGG has finally fallen to Spexzilla.
Warcry just too strong. They are able to punish OGG for coming back into his jungle to look for those XP camps. Not aware of where everyone was on the map and ends up dying for it, despite the good crushing wave play. Taunt now onto Hitoman is going to pull him back. Silva is waiting over the wall, but it's Dentola who looks like he got taunted. Final judgment not going to be fired, but tier 1 in right should fall.
Should and will. For sure. Noping now able to free up the right side of the map completely. Spexzilla was already making a lot of early rotations that have helped out Noping quite a lot. They weren't even necessary, but it's just a little bit nice to have. The fact that they were able to catch ETS so off guard and a lot of these engagements just not really expecting the Kakolin to be there. And Margot, we just have not seen the same sort of match rotation ability that you would kind of expect, and now without his tower, that just means that Margot's probably going to want to stick around in the solo lane just a little bit longer than Spexzilla. And if Spexzilla's continuing to make rotations before Margot, these fights are only going to get further and further apart.
Spexzilla has been coming over these fights very early on, it's felt like, and they've been definitely getting the benefits from it. As Felzera, still trying to stay ahead of XT over in the dual lane, is about 2 levels, a level and a half or so. XT's kind of cut that gap a little bit, thanks to some of these team fights that have been happening in Felzera's rotations. Meanwhile, the mid lane still in favor of Silva. He's out in front of Kai, who's gone with that Book of Thoth Rush, it looks like, instead of the Mage's Blessing. So doesn't have quite as much free cooldown as Sting.
This is also a pretty unconventional Hubwa build from OGG. Speaking of unconventional, Kai, goodbye. Kai headed back to base unintentionally. Zitoman gonna be next, and Felzora, he's not done yet. He's still going in.
He is going to go up into the Bat out of Hell, try and find some return damage. Aegis comes out from XT. Taunt pulls them both back in, but beads are there to give him a little CC immunity. But Silva and Felzera from long range find the shots. Now Jules going in aggressively. Double kill for Felzera now on the Hachiman. 4 members go down for ATs. Everyone's still alive for no ping. They're going to look for a little bit more. This tier 1 tower in left could be in trouble.
I think we both had the same reaction, by the way, to Kai's death, except yours came out verbally, and mine was just like, oh.
It's definitely a reaction I've been planning on having, as Margoana does take down Spexzilla in the 1v1 first, yes, but tower returns the favor. But, you know, I've been saying I'm going to have that reaction. Then I end up having it there when Silva deleted that.
Have you ever heard Hubwa when he dies?
Something like that, yeah.
The water sound, that's one of my favorite death effects in the game.
It's pretty good.
By far.
Yeah, I don't know what any death effects sound like, because, you know, I don't die that often, so...
No, yeah, I feel like sometimes when I play Smite, I forget that I use a colored monitor, because my screen is usually black and white.
Someone asked me on Twitter once what my favorite discrete defeat screen was, and I said I wouldn't know, and I put on my sunglasses and said, I only see victory screens, so... I just, you know.
I wouldn't know.
I'm willing to meet.
Sounds like a nice life. Pyromancer gonna be pulled up next here for Noping.
No one around.
Double the kills, double the experience, double the gold. I mean, it's just getting more and more rough for ETS to try and keep this game under control. And as much as they've been trying to respond to a lot of these initial engagements, they are just coming up short time and time again.
Jules in some trouble, can't even make it up into the air. Crushing Wave hits him right before he makes it up, but Felzera wants to go aggressive on XT in response. Beads to avoid the boar. The auto attack's just too strong. The 2v1 does net them a kill. Now Spexzilla in some trouble with those ships damage coming out from the Habwa. They've been able to make their play happen over here on the right-hand side, whereas Noping went over to the left.
Don't think that Spexzilla was expecting 4 members to be in his lane. Margo and Oship are relatively low here, but everybody from Noping, they're not going to bother rotating. They might lose the T2 tower here. They're just going to go for the Gold Fury. T2 would undoubtedly give ETS a huge boost of gold and open up, or return, I should say, a little bit of that map pressure. So in case Noping do like to go for the Fire Giant soon here, they're not going to have this T2 to fall back towards.
That's right. This will be the first Tier 2 tower to be brought down here, but perhaps a chance for Noping to come in and return the favor as they head towards duo, but probably not. Not with Margo, Ana, and XT all making the rotation back over for a moment. It felt like Noping had started to pull too far away. Now ETS are showing us that they can indeed respond. Margo, Ana takes a lot of pokes. Silva there with the long range evade and punish, but they cannot take down the Bologna just yet.
And Zetaman not trying to let Dentola back for free. He's actually 3 levels underneath the Athena.
Wow.
This support experience gap is pretty huge.
And he started out ahead, actually. Evade and punish does indeed punish. Zetaman has the ability to knock him up into the air with the epic uppercut. Is going to fall back towards XT, but Noping aren't looking for this fight just yet. They couldn't get the Tier 2 tower in response. So now ETS have been able to sort of close this gap just a little bit here, Taco, and bring this game closer because it started to feel like it was going to be way out of control.
With Dentola having backed, Falzetta recognizes he needs to fall back also. Jules going to look for some poke onto Oship, and right there with you, Finch. This game was starting to get a little too chaotic, I think, for ETS to handle. That push, though, on the right-hand side over in solo was just massive. The grouping out of ETS was so unexpected by Noping that they just didn't know how to respond. They seemed as though they wanted to just wait for the Gold Fury, but I can't help but feel like they maybe should have defended that T2.
Yeah, instead they kind of commit to that dual lane gank right between Dentola and Felzera, and they end up losing it. They're still out in the lead, but I agree, Taco. They give up a lot in return for that. 2 kills on that side and the Tier 2 tower. They are posturing around the Fire Giant. They do want to fight. Kai gets taunted, has to use beads to get away, but Jules wants to go an aggressive bat out of hell, waits for the Aegis to go down, and is able to finish him off. Crushing Wave comes through, but Felzera is the one that deletes out Oship. Now Margo in some trouble, taunted back, and Silva happy to remove him from the map.
Zetaman doesn't end up dying, but the other 3 members from his team do. ETS, they don't have anybody to try and help prevent this Fire Giant from happening. It is absolutely free for Noping, and what initially seemed like a bit of a misplay over in that solo lane, because it's not so much losing the map pressure as much as it was just giving ETS a bit of a freebie, getting them experience and gold that they drastically needed, and now they weren't as starved of. But I think we're getting right back to how things were feeling at the start prior to that siege from ETS, because Noping are tearing down the right-hand side and making quick work of these remaining structures.
Taco, would you take a 10-0-3 level 19 Hachiman on your team? Would that be okay with you?
Only if I'm 4 levels over the level 15 Artemis.
Oh, you are. I didn't mention that. You're right. You're 4 levels over the Artemis.
Yeah, I think that's a lane I could deal with.
You'd be like, yeah, you'd thumbs up.
Imagine if you logged into SMITE and every single time you were given a random matchup, and sometimes you were under-leveled, sometimes you were way over-leveled, and sometimes you were even.
That'd be fun. Like, it just skips the laning phase. You go right to mid-game, and you're just in a situation.
You just don't know what level you're going to be.
Yeah, you could just suddenly be a behind Sylvanas, and as Kai gets removed, doesn't even get to play the game. Felzera drops back down from the epic uppercut, but now going the wrong way away from the whole squad. Kumbhakarna has nowhere to go. Go ahead and give him a pillow, because it is night-night time. We'll see you later. Hidoman as Silva continues to punish OSHIP on the top end of the fight. They only want the tier 2 and duo. They're going right for the Phoenix.
The only thing that ETS really have going for them right now is that these respawn timers are so short because their team is so behind. Level 15, level 12, they cannot stand up against the experience of Noping.
Now OSHIP does blink in and drop the crushing wave. Speczilla's brought low, but not low enough. Bludgeon hammers him into the ground, so Margot is able to find a return kill. XT, though, gets caught out over the wall. Silva with a double kill on the Thoth mid lane. Mid Phoenix now in a whole heap of trouble. That one gets brought down as well. ETs have respawned. A couple members. Kai is back. He'd like to push some buttons this time, I imagine, but everyone's already retreating. Maybe not. Taunt brings him right back in.
Already going to have to be losing those purification beads, and Zenoman, as quickly as he respawned, nearly sent back to base. Just barely manages to avoid the final judgment there from Silva. And all eyes on the retreat, but Noping already got what they came for. They take out the mid Phoenix, they get a couple of kills in the process, and not only that, they also managed to take out Kai's purification beads the second that he spawns and comes out of the fountain.
Yeah, it feels bad. Kai really never got a chance to do much of anything that entire engagement. 3-5 and 2 now. Book of Thoth pin boots into the Spear of Desolation. Hasn't had the impact that I'm sure he would have liked to in this game. They still have a chance if they can regroup and make one more defense because Felzera and Noping are grabbing the Gold Fury. They're going back and spending their gold. Fire Giant's still available for another minute. But they do have a chance to try and group up and defend.
This is just so well executed from Noping. That's probably the best way to put it. From the very start, Noping seemed as though they really wanted to make everything happen off of that dual lane, and that's exactly what they managed to accomplish. Dentola and Felzetta, these two combined, have undoubtedly been the catalyst for this game. And Noping just reaping every single one of the benefits that their dual lane was able to provide.
Very far out in front now, and I like how efficiently Speczilla's been building in response to this early lead that he's gotten. The Mystical Mail, Glad Shield, Runic, Spirit Robe. These are some pretty cost-effective items to give you really good stats, especially the Spirit Robe when he is getting hit by these controls, by the control from ETs to make him even tougher.
Well, speaking of cost-effective items, I mean, I'm looking at OSHIP's build. He was probably the only member on his team doing anything. XT, whole world of hurt here. Not going to be able to escape between the Colin and the Camazotz. Quick and easy one for Jules to collect. Final Judgment will come out, connects onto Margot, but in this 3v4, this is the fight that ETS have to take.
Apple is thrown through the fight, doesn't quite hit home. Dentola is going to land the taunt onto OSHIP, crushing wave to get him out of it, but Felzera is immortal indeed, finds another kill, 11-0 and 7, and is ready to keep right on moving. Kai has to run away from Speczilla, who's 1v3ing underneath the Phoenix with thorns ticking. They don't even have a minion wave here just yet, but they are still barreling down the door. Phoenix is going to be brought down. ETs can't defend. And Noping gonna move right around and try and move in for the Titan.
Only 3 members left standing. XT about to respawn in another 10 seconds, but there's 2 waves of creeps pouring into the base now. Titan room and the third Phoenix is nearly fallen. If Jules can find the last hit, no, instead, Margot will have a successful defense there, but the same can't be sent inside of the base. Margot has no idea what's happening.
Yeah, Hitoman does end up falling. Felzera finds that kill. Phoenix on the right-hand side is still standing, but Kai can't even go back to the fountain without getting destroyed by Silva. Titan now at half HP. Dentola still here, Speczilla still here, Silva and Felzera all have the damage. OSHIP does respawn, gets stunned and controlled, and has to go back towards the fountain himself. Gets taunted back in, but all eyes are on the backside where Margot Anna's keeping everyone busy. Felzera finally gonna take a spill and get shut down.
This Titan is just so low already. Jules gonna pick up where he left off, sees that his team won't be able to end right away, instead decides to take out that third and final Phoenix. Mid-Phoenix will be respawning, but because the other 2 are missing, this Titan is not going to regen at all for ETS.
No, it is not. It's gonna stay this low, and Noping maybe couldn't grab it in that push, Taco, but I gotta imagine next push, they shouldn't have too much trouble. That Titan does not have a whole lot of HP. It's only the mid-Phoenix that they have to worry about. In fact, they only end up losing the fight because ETs essentially got 6 extra lives in that fight. They were able to respawn and come back in time to fight again. Noping gonna go back, finish up some items, and look to push once more.
I really like how Noping chose to play that one out. Also, they spread ETS so thin. From the moment that they picked off XT, everybody from Noping tries to regroup, give Jules the opening that Camazotz wants to try and split push that Phoenix. And speaking of openings, this is going to be Defender of Olympus right on top of Jules. They're looking to take out XT before the next fight even begins.
XT does get taunted back in, but with Jules in bat out of hell, a lot of the DPS was lost. OSHIP does have the water spout, take away the Mad Guy's clip from Jules, so it should be a little bit easier, but they got to make sure they keep defending these minion waves, which are threatening the Titan yet again.
Margot can't defend everything by himself, and ETS, they don't have a choice. They actually have to fight outside of their base, because if Noping are allowed to charge right in there, they won't even hesitate. They'll probably be able to just fully collapse on top of this Titan with its current health.
I think they could go right past the team to the Titan if they so chose. They are going to grab the Fire Giant buff for themselves first. They've got Spexzilla stripping away the jungle, Jules grabbing his own jungle, 5 members strong on the FG. Actually, Felzera considering backing. I like that he sticks with the team and groups up with them to move forward, because they definitely need his damage.
They definitely need that damage, at least if they want to end as quickly as possible and not risk getting wiped. They can wipe probably a few times and still be okay, but you don't want to risk it against a late game composition.
Well, Defender of Olympus coming out. Jules is going right for the Titan, right past everyone. Defender of Olympus damage is good, but they have to retreat. Now Spexzilla's coming in with a war cry, and that's enough. No Ping Esports 2-0 over ETS. They take the set.
Just too little too late there from ETS. There was nothing left for them to do, really. Once their Titan fell to that low HP threshold, they had to fight in front of those Phoenixes even. I'm talking like the spacing before you even go into the circle.
Yes, that's how far
That's exactly the area that they needed to be taking those fights in, and instead they look to wait and see what will happen next, and well, we saw it. Noping just charged right in there.
And they end up taking that game, and they do game 1 and game 2 really in such controlling fashion. Game 1, we talked about how that one blew open right away, but game 2, I mean, what happened in that one? How'd that one get so out of control for ETS?
That one just felt like a collapse entirely from the duo lane, because ETS tried to compensate. We saw OSHIP one more time looking towards solo, looking towards mid lane, trying to divert the attention from duo, maybe get his team a chance to catch up. I think more importantly, though, OSHIP had to gank there sooner. It was just way too out of control. Felzetta seemed like no one could stop him at the very start of the game. And he was like 10-0-7 at one point. The fact that a Hachiman can participate in 17 out of 20-something kills, that's problematic as is. Yeah,
and like the 21-minute mark or something like that, that's pretty nuts that he was able to be that involved in the game. And I think that you're exactly right to hone in there. Felzera and Dentola getting ahead so early in the dual lane really did create problems, because then Felzera was able to start rotating over to mid lane and help find some kills for them. They never really were able to have their own hunter in that game, and they were able to just get too far ahead.
And that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes, but congratulations to Noping on managing to secure a clean 2-0 set victory over ETS, and I think this is a really important set too, because like we talked about at the very start before this match even began, you have to keep in mind that it's all about staying on track with Black Dragons over there in the standings.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at where they are, because they should be right there with them now. 4-1, that's right. Noping and Black Dragons, both 4-1. So close. Remember, it was Black Dragons who came to Spring Masters. Maybe that land ticket not quite as guaranteed as we all had thought. Noping, they want a chance to come out and test themselves too.
They're ready to break it. Black Dragons have been the Brazil representatives for as long as I can remember, and now Noping posing a very serious threat to try and take that one away.
I'm definitely going to make sure we're keeping our eyes here on Brazil in the Global Series, because it just keeps getting tighter and tighter. But we have more action coming your way. The SMITE Minor League is just about to kick off, so we're going to take a few minutes, about a 5-minute break. Go ahead and grab a drink, grab whatever snack you want, get right back here, and we'll go right into the Minor League. Thank you for joining us here at the SMITE Minor League. Finch, I've got Taco with me yet again, but this time we're on the desk, Taco. You like it? You like having the desk here?
The other side of life.
That's right, yeah. Sometimes we cast and we're standing for that. Sometimes we're on the desk and we sit for this, and this is nice. But we're talking about the SML here, Taco. It's going to be Sacred Speed Buff going up against Optimus Gang here in the EU SML. I expect this to be a pretty good match. Optimus Gang looking like one of the top-end teams here in the minor league, and Sacred Speed Buff, they've been struggling a little bit, but definitely still some talent.
I think the Optimus Gang have really been on a resurgence as of late because they've definitely stepped it up in terms of just teamwork overall. I think it's really helped their gameplay come into because they've always been a bit of a more aggressive team, but I think they've started finally showing a little bit more player discipline, and that in turn has ultimately helped out their long-term gameplay.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule so you can see what matchups you can expect throughout the rest of the week. Again, we're right here at Sacred Speed Buff against Optimus Gang. Get to see very nice to me the top of North America SML happening tomorrow up against Cryptic. It's actually a really big set. Definitely looking forward to that one. Then Armada up against Sanguine towards the end of the league, or end of the week. That should be the second place North American team up against Sanguine. So a lot of really good sets to check up here. And then just so you have an idea of exactly where everyone's shaking out, these are the standings for you. Again, we're looking at Optimus Gang second here in EU, so definitely on a roll up against Sacred Speed Buff, who have only been able to find that one set win.
Sacred Speed Buff definitely have been struggling over here in the Season 5 summer split, but this could be a very real chance for them to play spoiler against Optimus Gang. Optimus Gang right now, I think that their land dreams are still intact. They have the opportunity, if they can make it, or if they can find the closeouts that they need to on their remaining sets. I don't think that Optimus Gang can afford to drop any of their remaining sets, and they kind of also need to rely on Insignum to lose a couple of theirs.
That's exactly right. They're going to need a little bit of outside help if they want to make it to the land, but this is what good teams do. Good teams win the matchups they are supposed to win on paper, and so that's what Optimus Gang have to do here. Show they can consistently win in a matchup where they're favored.
Actually, I take that back. I think Insignum might have already pretty much solidified themselves. I mean, they're so far up in the standings, and the fact that they're undefeated.
They really have been doing a great job here in the EU SML, but Picks and Bans are ready for Game 1, Taco. Let's go ahead and hop right into them and see exactly what it is they're going to be taking a look at. We've seen Chernobog be valued a little bit, sometimes first ban, sometimes first pick. Came down a little bit in the SGS earlier today, but hasn't seen a ton of success yet. Is that just because of the other comps around him, or is the Chernobog not as strong as maybe we predicted?
I think whenever a new god is introduced into the mix, you always tend to have those teams that want to be a little bit more experimental. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it's a complete and total miss. You never know if you're going to strike out or hit a home run, and so the big thing to keep in mind is that Chernobog, I don't think the issue is with the god. I think the problem would probably lie more so in the playstyle utilized, as well as just the overall composition surrounding him.
Well, let's see how it ends up working out. It's certainly likely that a pick could be still very strong and does not get off to the very best start, as it's banned right away now by Sacred Speed Buff. Optimus Gang are going to be the first pick selection. They've taken away some global mobility in the terms of the Athena and the Ratatosker, and now they're going to first pick Artemis. I mean, this pick has truly risen up in the ranks towards being first picked here now. So strong in that duo lane and in the late game too.
It seems as though a lot of teams really enjoy taking the Artemis. She does provide a lot of early game pressure, and we all know that her one primary weak point is always going to be the fact that she's a little bit more mobile early on and throughout the match, realistically speaking. So that's why I actually like seeing Sacred Speed Buff go over the Cerberus and the Raw, get a little bit of sustain, and the fact that you're kind of waiting for the Raw to hit that mid-game stride. I think that with the Cerberus, whether that's solo or support, it's still aggressive enough that as long as Sacred Speed Buff keep their side lane strong, the Raw should be left alone.
Yeah, in fact, it's really good setup just between the Cerberus and the Raw. Stygian Torment back into Celestial Beam steering Pain is a ton of damage all at once. The sustain going to be very strong for the Raw too if they can group up around that in prolonged engagements. So far, Sacred Speed Buff off to a great start. Now, Optimus Gang, though, have just kind of drafted really good stuff so far, right? They've got the Mercury, they've got the Giannis, the Athena, the Artemis, and the Giannis and Mercury as well. I mean, everyone on that team can kill you. Everyone on that team can get around well except for the Artemis. I mean, Optimus Gang in a good spot.
Optimus Gang are in a really good spot as far as damage is concerned.
Yes.
But Sacred Speed Buff is still trying to respond. They went for the AO, and Ao Kwang is not a pick that we get to see all the time. I think the only other SML player we really witness this from is going to be Johnny over there in Europe also. So it's kind of interesting to see Sacred Speed Buff take away the AO and thinking that they're going to be able to find the pressure that they desire. But Alquang Raw, that could struggle a little bit between their mid and jungle.
That is a little bit curious, taking this one into the matchup up against Johnny in this set. I mean, already the Mercury has been selected, so maybe they just want to pick it for themselves, worried that maybe some revives might be coming through. They want to have the execute on their side. I mean, we don't see that much of this Alquang pick anymore. Is it just too all in? Like, what's kind of had this pick fall out of favor?
It feels a bit all in, but it's mostly just the lack of pressure during the early game. I think that early game pressure has just become so important, not necessarily for invades entirely, but if you go for the AO, you have a much higher likelihood, I think, of dying earlier on or not being able to match the gank capabilities from your direct opponent, that then your team ultimately ends up falling behind. And if your jungler is missing jungle, that means that your mid starts missing out on experience, and it just keeps building over time until eventually your whole team is just deprived of experience.
And that's something that can happen. Alquang can very well be punished early, especially by the likes of a Mercury, who's already pretty good at catching people out in general. So we'll see how well that ends up working for him here as the Rom Bologna rounds out the draft for Sacred Speed Buff, and then Terra and Amaterasu rounds it out for Optimus Gang. So even more mobility. The Mercury, the Amaterasu, that aura that she's able to provide, and the Giannis, they're going to be getting around real well.
This is the peel and control that you wanted to see for Optimus Gang also. You get that damage online.
Yes.
Sure, that's all fine and dandy, but you need some form of initiation, some form of setup. Terra and Amaterasu, probably two of the best gods for doing that in this current composition, and I love the fact that Amaterasu also contributing even more to Mercury passive, so he's going to get some more bonus power also out of that.
Okay, before we get over to the game, instead of who wins, I want to know, what's this Alquang got to do to have a good game here in this game? Well, like, if at the end of the game, that Alquang is the reason they won, what did he do that got him to that point?
Survive the early.
That's it, just to make it through the early game.
He's got to make it through the first, 15 minutes, I'd say.
All right, well, let's see if the Alquang can do it, or if Optimus Gang are able to punish. We'll move right into game with the casters.
Thanks a lot, Finch and Taco. Totally joining me here today for this Optimus Gang versus, what was it called?
Sacred Speed Buff.
Okay. Well, they're going to need a Sacred Speed Buff here if they're going to run the Alquang jungle in the early game. This is a very late game comp they put together here, Totally.
It's true. The Alquang, I think, was more to take it away from Johnny's hands than to actually give it to Get Fisher. Get Fisher not necessarily known for his Alquang, more known for his Hun Bats and other things alike. A little bit more global presence. That's why we saw the Ratatasker ban trying to get that away from him, and heading into this game, I think it's a battle of the junglers.
Well, let's get straight into game and find out that Stevie Beefy is on the run, playing his legendary Bologna once upon a time in the Pro League and certain points in history through SPL, but now finds himself on Sacred Speed Buff alongside people like Get Fisher and Lance Wolf, who've dabbled towards the SPL, is the best way I can say it. Meanwhile, Optimus Gang, well, you've seen that roster a couple of times before, under a couple of different names at this point.
That's true. Optimus Gang, a lot of familiar faces there. Had their time in the sun with some SPL experience back in Season 4. Couldn't really quite cut it then. Now trying to make their way back up. But in Season 5, a lot has changed recently in the roster department, especially in the Sacred Speed Buff side of things, with a new duo lane, Lance Wolf and Springer, trying to go against a late-game Artemis. Not an easy task.
Well, early on, some pressure coming out from Optimus Gang. Surprisingly so, Optimus and Terra, not necessarily the strongest duo lane in terms of pushing, but they're already putting a bit of a beat down and getting some pressure early on here. Sprint pop by Lance Wolf, and the chase is on. In response, a quick shell, and that's all she wrote for that, because Spanify took more damage than he bargained for from the spit, but he'll survive for now.
A lot of damage actually onto the Artemis, but the clear should favor Optimus Gang for the moment with a little bit of extra sustain. They're
right
able to still box.
Stevie's in a bit of trouble here. He proxied the wave and was trying to steal away the blue buff in the jungle, but Johnny sniffed that out after doing the speed and back harpies, so he will be able to defend the blue for the time being. So far, so good then for Optimus Gang and Sacred Speed Buff at the start of this game.
Not losing any minions as well when you're going for the proxy is very important. And the upgraded shell being placed very early is an important thing in the duo lane. When you're dealing with the upgraded sprint, you're trying to really hold your ground, and that's what allowed Caspanify to just kind of walk away from some of these astral arrows that Springer is so prevalent to throwing out there against all the minions, and even against the body block Terra. You're always trying to look for that secondary target.
Johnny's going to go in on Filippo, and that's going to force him to use those beads defensively. keep the Ra on the back foot. We've seen this a lot in the Pro League, Toli, of these Mercuries coming through, applying pressure to the mid lane very early on. And a lot of mid laners been struggling against these Mercuries.
And mid laners definitely need to have the Mercury at the back of their mind, not just for the global presence at level 5, but the burst damage, even beforehand, is something that you can't take for granted. You're going to have to burn more health potions than you normally used to against a semi-aggressive jungler. Then all of a sudden, you're backing to base without your boots. You're coming back with only boots 2 as opposed to boots 3, and it changes your whole flow.
Well, you got no beats this time. What are you going to do? Right, first of all, it'll avoid the unstable vortex. Get Fisher went aggressive on Johnny, but a very good portal out of Farrakrick will save the life of Mercury, who could have been in a bit more trouble there.
Johnny putting himself really out there, and Get Fisher trying to punish him, but Farrakrick just one step ahead. You have to rely on your teammates every single situation, whether you're a mid laner setting up your jungler or vice versa. Sometimes you got to show your jungler some love and save his life.
Back to the left-hand side we go, and it's all about clear. Terra and Artemis definitely going to have the advantage at this point in time. Now that Terra is hit level 2, she's a little bit closer to clearing the wave 3. It'll get a little bit stronger like it is now. But as the right-hand side with Junin in there, Sibi on the Amaterasu, expected to be pressured early in this lane against the Bellona.
Normally, Bellona is definitely a favor in the early game, especially when you're going to proxy farm and look for the invade. Now, not necessarily stealing away the blue buff, but still getting some extra experience, still looking for another invade. Going to be difficult, though, to secure against Sibi.
Got to be careful, though. Sibi just used his dash, and Getfish is now around the corner. But Getfish only at level 3, won't be able to continue the aggression there. At level 5, obviously, he would have been able to potentially find an easy pickup of a kill. As we tune in back to the dual lane, no one based just yet in this game, other than Johnny, who's got his full Warrior Tabby online.
Haven't really seen purple buffs being secured from SSB. They're trying to kind of get that lane pressure. Finally, will go to their purple, seeing that Fusify's purple has just fizzled away. He's looking for that potential invade. The walls come out, but he's waiting.
And not sure if he managed to steal that. No, won't be the case. Lance Wolf secures and manages to pick it up for the time being. Just keep it on the level 5s coming through. The mid laners and the solo lane is now level 5. But there's a bit of a lead actually in the mid lane for Filippo on that Ra as well, ahead of Farrakrick, which is a little bit surprising with how the start of this game began.
It's Johnny playing very aggressive and looking for some gank potentials instead of looking for some farm. The neutral camps favoring Filippo with the level or only 10-second cooldown on the Celestial Beam. You're able to clear the way very fast and then rotate for either neutral mid Harpy, and that's what he's been able to do, whereas Farrakrick has definitely been hugging around his Mercury unintentionally. It's not really his fault that Johnny wants to play this aggressive. He's just losing some experience as a result.
Interesting to see that the Giannis has gone for the Shoes of Focus, something that got buffed relatively recently. Has a bit more additional power on those boots now, and that's allowing for a little bit better clear. Problem is, though, there's no penetration if you go for this option.
It's not that big of a deal if you're not hitting those beefy targets. If you're trying to hit somebody in the back line with through space and time, that extra penetration, not the biggest deal in the world.
I think at the moment as well, Tolly, with how the team comp, the Sacred Speed Buff have put together is, you're not worried about seeing Steefy the Bellona as the Giannis, so just don't worry about Pen there. And Cerberus, it's going to take till around 11-12 before you start seeing those Guardians, those supports, getting a little bit tankier, being able to weather the storm of the attacks that are coming in.
That's very true. Normally,
talk about attacks coming in, though. Farrakrick with the space and time, going to slow down Spring, and that's going to force him to use his beads. And the sprint also popped. They will escape.
Another blue buff attempt. This time it was successfully invaded. Sibi using his ultimate defensively very early, afraid of getting slowed and then eventually getting executed. But without that ultimate, Getfisher still having his own and could look for a juicy target.
Yeah, Sacred Speed Buff there on that dual lane, though. You saw the beads get used by Rama and then the sprint by Lance Wolf. Don't need to use both of those, boys. I think in the grand scheme of things, just pop the sprint and you walk away through the slow.
That's
but
true.
The beads being forced just before that, Tolly, that's miscommunication from the dual lane.
I think they were trying to preemptively use it against the portal. They didn't time that correctly. Luckily, Farrakrick missed the portal, so Springer thanking his lucky stars on that one as he was able to walk away during his own level 4 attempt. If he was level 5 with the Astral Barrage, he would definitely be able to maybe even turn that gank on its head for a lot of damage.
Well, it feels like Sacred Speed Buff, their main focus here was just survive the early game, get through it, and so far so good. No one's died on either side. It favors both teams the later this game goes, with a Mercury, Optimus, and a Giannis, and an Amaterasu, I should say. Optimus gangs will be flying. But Sacred Speed Buff, they've got a couple of gods themselves that will shine in the later stages.
Ram, Ao Kwang, those two individually. Johnny boxing against Get Fisher, beats being used, and there goes the Sonic Boom!
Rightly timed as well. Half a second later, and Get Fisher would have found the execute there, I believe, onto Johnny. But the immunity from Sonic Boom just saves his life as the junglers trade in the jungle. Small win, though, for Johnny, because his beads are still available.
Very unfortunate that Farrakrik didn't have his ultimate ready for that one. It was still on cooldown from when he attempted to gank the left lane. If that was up, guaranteed follow-up after the Sonic Boom, and that would have been the first blood onto Get Fisher's life.
Optimus Gang currently second in the SMITE Minor League at the moment, just trying to keep pace with the leaders over in the European scene, but it's a tricky task with them being undefeated at the moment.
It's very tricky because Optimus Gang, their only losses are against Insignum. And that means that Optimus Gang's land contentions are out of their control. They need to obviously win out the remainder of their sets and then hope for a miracle. Hope that some sort of devastation happens to Insignum.
Well, maybe that could happen. Never count your chickens in the world of Smite. Steefy trying to contest his own blue buff, but Getfish is on the way. No ultimates available for these junglers. Sibby going to get a bit of a battering from Getfish as the space and time from Farrakrik connects with Steefy. Steefy ends up falling for first blood, and Johnny, with the fastest feet alive, will get that first blood.
Getfisher has no ultimate, neither does Johnny. They're coming up very, very soon. I thought that Sonic Boom was about to be targeted towards that Tier 1 tower, but instead using this opportunity to at least invade the blue buff, allowing Sibby some more comeback potential. It was Steefy invading the blues repeatedly.
Flippo, there's someone behind you, my friend. He's going to immediately have to turn around. Beads are available for the Raw here, so I'm not surprised to see Johnny not go all the way in there for the pick potential. He will now, though, with the support of Fusify, but just off the mark.
That Raw passive, all three stacks, is just outweighing the mobility from even a Mercury that's labeled as the fastest god alive. Just a little bit too much to handle, even before you finish off the Hasten Katana. But even with the Hasten Katana buffs going from 24 to 2200 total, Johnny is not interested in that playstyle. He'd rather max out his crit as soon as possible, going for the rage, trying to build up some stacks before these team fights.
Gives Spotify under some pressure here, going to get slowed down by Lance Wolf, but Lance Wolf can't find the stun after the fact. Looking for the extra damage for the setup to try and burn those beads. Won't be the case, but now Fusify on the rotation, and he's going to have those walls and that route available. Lance Wolf under pressure, as is Springer, because Johnny came down the lane with the Sonic Boom, removes Springer, and Lance Wolf follows soon after.
I was waiting for this global pressure from Johnny to start showing up, because before that, he used his ultimate defensively. Great timing to set up for another 2 kills, even going on the Raw, but right around the corner.
Whoa! Space and time removes the Raw from the map. Who needs penetration when you're playing Giannis?
That's true. The squishy target rod. No magical defense necessary.
That was a lot of damage.
No penetration required. You get that ultimate off. You're doing quite a bit of damage. Sitting at level 2, you're looking at 400 base damage with 75% scaling.
And if you think about how much power he's got in his build right now as well, that just adds up a little bit more. That's why the Raw was removed. And so it's 4-0 to Optimus Gang. No Gold Fury attempts just yet at approaching the 10-minute mark.
This is the point where Sacred Speed Buff needs to start worrying about the late game. Clearly, Johnny is getting off to a tear, sitting at 2-0-2, part of 100% of the kills from OGG. And this Mercury is about to pop off. You need to start thinking about Merguardian Mails. You need to start worrying about Witchblades. And if I'm Filippo, maybe even a Warlock Staff along the way.
Well, the thing is that Rage. That's what the big thing is here. It's already got 3 stacks on it totally. And that aim just gets better and better as you get it up to the max stacks, which I believe is 5.
That's true. It's going to be sitting at 30% to start. You're getting 2% per stack, capping off at 5 stacks. So 40% crit total, which is about to be done after 1 more kill or 2 more assists. And then all of a sudden, Johnny, once he throws out the major looks, is going to be just chunking these squishy targets even harder.
Well, with this deficit being the way it is now, it's Sacred Speed Buff on the defensive and just hoping, to hope's sake, that this mid-game doesn't get any worse. Because we're just approaching mid-game now. These Harpies going to get invaded. 2-on-3 scenario. Could be 2-on-4. Because even Steefy was thinking about a rotation. Steefy's here. Johnny forced to dash away from
Very good dash. Being able to avoid that searing pain. Lance Wolf holding on to the Stygian Torment, not wanting to use it quite yet. Didn't really have the proximity to keep up with the mobility from Johnny. Left side, though, 2-on-1, trying to force something onto Springer.
Problem is, though, Toli, because of that rotation from Steefy trying to defend his jungle and help out his mid lane and jungle position, Steefy ended up losing his tower to an Amaterasu, not something you get to see too often. As Kaspadify now a little bit too far forward here.
It's going to be a kill.
Good walls from Fusify.
That's
is
a
actually
kill.
going to put Lance Wolf down. You're right, it is a kill.
Lance Wolf was in no man's land. You're not going to be able to tussle with the level 11 Artemis before you have any defense or any health. Trying to save his hunter, he did that, but then he just put himself too far out there. Still
pressure on the Rama, though. Springer's still alive for now, but as soon as he lands, the walls come crushing in. Fusify trying to find the kill, tanking the tower.
Shell.
That could kill him.
No, the shell was good. Still looking for more. Was Kaspadify, but needs to back off. Let's get Fisher's right around the corner. Very good kiting from Springer, but in the mid lane, here comes Steefy.
But Steefy couldn't find the bludgeon. Already used the Eagles rally to get in close enough to the Farrakrick and force the Giannis to use those beads. 6-0 though. The main thing is, from Optimus Gang's point of view, they have still not died, even though there's been a few close calls so far.
There definitely have been, but it's all the pressure that Johnny has been applying onto Sacred Speed Buff, getting another assist stack, giving him that 4th hit of that Rage Stacker, getting closer and closer to that 40% marker. And with this much momentum, you're now thinking about maybe Deathbringer, potentially Malice if you're this Mercury.
Farrakrick going to go aggressive, looking for the back harpies again. Try to farm these on cooldown on the right-hand side, or Optimus Gang. They pretty much control the whole right-hand side of the map. But Sacred Speed Buff started to find a bit of momentum on the left. Fisher just recently stole the red buff away from Optimus Gang. So that could be the tail of the tape here. One jungler right, one jungler left.
Losing a red buff when you have 6 kills, you're sitting at about 4,000 gold. You're feeling pretty good about that one. As Fusify looking to play very frisky. Stuns out, get Fisher in the mid lane onto Flippo.
It's all on Flippo, but Flippo still on his heels and still alive. Juking around, but the punch from Johnny's good enough. Fisher trying to answer back and find the kill and will do so. Those last couple of dragons flew through the air to pick that one up. Fisher will escape. And Sacred Speed Buff get on the board.
Johnny does a lot of damage, but so does Get Fisher. You cannot disrespect the Dragon King as he's able to get that return kill. Shutting down Johnny, a very important kill now to allow this Ao Kwang some momentum. And with the death timer of 20 seconds, that's 20 seconds, Get Fisher can look for some additional farm, maybe even look for some invades.
I definitely feel better about being Optimus Gang heading towards the later stages of the game here, Toli. I mean, Ao Kwang in the jungle, great. You sure, he can burst a target down, but he's very susceptible to crit. And that's the one thing that Optimus Gang have a lot of here. With having a Mercury and an Artemis, it's going to cause him a lot of problems.
Oh, and the right side of the lane forcing the defensive ultimate, juking it out with a nice little dash, but Get Fisher needs to find the slows.
Yeah, but Sibby is a very mobile character, but as the dash came through, Fisher catches it nicely to pick him up his 2nd kill of the game. That's the one great hope of the Sacred Speed Buff.
You're able to follow the dashes with your ultimate if you time it just right. Get Fisher. You were talking about the damage onto Get Fisher from Johnny, but vice versa. Get Fisher, I believe, is working on a Polynomicon, so there's going to be a lot of burst damage flying towards the Mercury. That's also a glass cannon.
Wow, this Govio is going to go down quick. He's up to Lance Wolf to try and stop it with a steal, but won't happen. Now the slow's coming out, but Lance Wolf going to retreat, and Optimus Gang end up getting themselves a free Gold Fury on the left-hand side. Sacred Speed Buff could only find the Pyro and that kill on the right.
Putting themselves still up about 3,000 gold. A good look to get the momentum as they're approaching the later stages of the mid-game. This is where teams are about to hit this level 17 marker where the ultimates are going to start doing a little bit more damage. Farrakrick looking for an opportunity, but not wanting to go too aggressive against Flippo and Lance Wolf.
Fisher did steal away that speed buff though, but Farrakrick a little bit too far forward there. Going to have to use the pole defensively. A little
Nice
concerned.
stuff. Nice stuff being able to just put yourself out there, disrespect the damage coming from Lance Wolf because you know you have your own portal to get you through the wall and hitting the unstable vortex onto Flippo, forcing him to use 2 raw heals, investing into more and more mana usage to consider diving this tier 1 tower.
Well, they're still looking to pressure it out as Farrakrick going into the jungle. Speed buff is about to spawn for Sacred Speed Buff. What a great conversation that's going to be. So you can see the pressure coming out from Optimus Gang trying to close that down and find a response to the one stolen away. But Lance Wolf did a very good job of pressuring out Farrakrick a little bit more so, as Sibby was on the rotation too. One thing I will say, Toli, is Optimus Gang at the moment, I like the fact they're going into anti-heal early. Not only is it going to help against Aurora, obviously, but Get Fisher on the Ao Kuang has gone for the Bancroft, so that's going to reduce a lot of survivability.
That's very true. And instead of going for the Polynomicon, going for the Soul Reaver for extra damage,
I thought
it
you were a
makes
little
sense.
lit then, to be fair, when you were talking about that.
I thought for sure it was going to be Polynomicon, potentially, because if you're going to go in and out of the action, Polynomicon procs a lot more frequently than the Soul Reaver, but if you're looking to all-in commit to get off your execute, Soul Reaver makes a little more sense. But I wouldn't be surprised if Polynomicon is still considered later on
in the build. Yeah, we'll see if that ends up happening, because the main thing from Get Fisher's point of view on this Ao Kuang is find Johnny, find Kaspanify, burst them before they can burst him. It's a race more than anything else between the two. Talk about race. Farrakrick needs a race now. He will use the beads and Aegis in time to escape. Right-hand side, though, Rama is dead on landing.
Trap.
The classic Artemis trap is placed.
Not like this, as Springer lands right on the trap. VVVT. Get Fisher, though, in a 1v1.
He's not winning
trying
it.
to kill Fusify, but he doesn't have his execute.
Good illusion from Fisher there towards the end, though. Avoid the walls and also heal a little bit from the Bancroft's talent, topping himself up in health. He did get a Soul Reaver proc towards the end. Right-hand side, Steefy's going to finally take that Tier 1 tower as Sibby's on an Adventureland cruise on the right-hand side of the map. Talking about Adventureland cruise, Lance Wolf's on one, but he's got to be got to the fountain.
Using that Stygian Torment, not enough to save the life. Trying to think about diving the Tier 2 tower. Turning around was Fleepo. He does get clipped at the tail end of it, but a perfect double stun from Sibby. Get Fisher not wanting to be under those walls.
Johnny's here, though. Has Sonic Boom. May look towards Flippo, but Flippo avoids the major look. Special delivery is available, as is Sonic Boom. Collapses on, Silence connects, and the Unstable Vortex will finish him off. Farrakrick gets out to the left. Got to be careful, though, because Springer's there. Farrakrick's got to run. No ultimate available for Springer to pick up the kill on the Giannis.
Wow.
Tier 1 tower mid. Falls.
Very close to clipping Get Fisher with that through space and time from the left side wall, cutting across horizontally, just thinking his lucky stars is Get Fisher. Still staying on the same pace as Johnny experience-wise. Yes, he's down one level, but this is the best possible outcome you would want from Get Fisher when your team is struggling this hard. At least you are getting yourself ahead.
Fusify's been a little bit too confident too long, being that deep in enemy territory, and he pays the iron price. Kaspanify, though, out of mana. Traps avoided by Fisher. Kaspanify had the Aegis, and that bought him enough time. Sibby going to use the ult as well, but a good Eagles rally to avoid the stun. Unfortunately, didn't connect with Sibby.
Needed to hit the stun so that Lance Wolf can follow up with a stun of his own, allowing more DPS from Get Fisher to find that secondary kill. It was a great execute onto Fusify, which allowed Get Fisher to just travel the map even further. But unfortunately for him, Kaspanify still had his both relics. Couldn't really get the DPS off during the Aegis.
Not so sure about the build coming out from Lance Wolf here too. Heartward Amulet is his first real major item. Magical defense against a Mercury and an Artemis, question mark.
Well, Jade Emperor's Crown is going to help limit some of the physical damage, as long as you're close to the Mercury, reducing some of that physical power. But I agree with you. There potentially could have been a Sovereignty trying to get more physical defense.
Even Thebes for both, right?
True,
If you're worried about the magical, invest in Thebes a little bit earlier.
It takes a little bit of a long time. Hold that thought, though, through space and time being used. The target is Flippo and Get Fisher.
Lots of portals available, and Get Fisher won't have a chance to, well, get away from anything there. Relics weren't available at the right time, so this is beautifully timed from Optimus Gang as they now found Flippo too. Steefy surrounded by 4. Eagles Rally just came up in time. Will use it, but he can't get back to tower range that easy. Lance Wolf over the wall to save the day and will do so. Pulls them all out of the tower range and making sure Steefy survives. Meanwhile, we did see Springer get a Tier 1 tower in the mid lane, but Johnny will make Lance Wolf pay the price for saving his solo laner.
Like a true support, throwing his body into the flames to rescue his teammate out of it. Saved Steefy's life, but just too low in the health and protection department. This level 12 Cerberus gets instantly turned around. If there was literally anybody next to Lance Wolf after that 4-man ultimate, that would have been the turnaround play.
Kaspanify would have died there if Springer hit that all 3 of those shots. Only 1 and number 3 connected. Kaspanify is going to be a very big issue in the team fights now. All 3 of the major carries on Optimus Gang are in fantastic position. 6-1 and 6 for Johnny, 3-0-5 for Farrakrick, and then you still got an Artemis to join the battle at 4-0 and 1.
The beautiful thing about Optimus Gang's composition is that they didn't feed early on to allow this Artemis crazy amount of mobility between the Giannis and the Amaterasu. Threshold, portals, Amaterasu, aura. You got a Terra to be able to engage or peel for your backline. I think Hispanify's damage is definitely going to be very fruitful considering Johnny's going to dive the backline. Fusify is going to create havoc. The through space and time needs to be in the back of the Chaos side's mind.
Mistakes is what cost teams games more than anything else. And that's the one thing that Sacred Speedbuff kind of have run into here. I feel it's a picks and bans mistake more than anything else. I feel like they lost picks and bans here, Tolly. Really do.
I definitely would agree with you. Terra, giving up Terra is just a little bit too much. And Terra was picked after the secondary ban phase. Teams just constantly waffle between what they prioritize every given week. With how often they scrim, with how often they play ranked. They lose to one in particular god because it's a comfort pick to someone, then all of a sudden they're like scratching their head like, okay, wait a second, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And Fusify is showing that Terra is still really powerful, especially when it's picked after the secondary ban phase.
Went with the Talisman of Energy here as well, Fusify, but hold that thought, mid lane's going to be under pressure. Root out from Fusify, catches Filippo in a rough position. Filippo's actually dead. Space and time used for good measure if required. Lance Wolf now the next on the list. And nobody here from Sacred Speedbuff. Hello? Lag? Where are my teammates? F6 now, please, if you're not going to do anything.
Jet Fisher was clearing the middle wave. He was waiting for his time to flank as a jungler. That's normally the mentality. He doesn't have that huge AoE ultimate the way Johnny has to go ripping down through lanes. The composition not favoring Sacred Speedbuff if they're the ones getting engaged on first.
15-3, 10k gold lead. Spring is about to go down and chase down again as Sacred Speedbuff are just off doing their own thing. Fire Giants also being done by two characters at the moment. Springer through the portal for good measure just to rub it in a little bit more. And now Optimus Gang can look to close this game out.
Whether it's a trap or a portal, Springer is not having a good time when he's up in the sky and enjoying the view and waiting to see what's down there for him. Fire Giant, 23 minutes into the game. Optimus Gang are looking very clean to close out this first game of the set.
Really is, and here we go. Down the mid lane, they push. Artemis on the right-hand side, still not involved in the game. As Fire Quick removes Flippo from the map for the 7th time this game.
Struggling is this Rod that doesn't have much health. A little bit of health from the Rod of Asclepius, but still didn't really rush the Warlock Staff. Not prioritizing with the Guardian Mail against the Mercury, because Painify in a lot of trouble. Get Fisher in the backline, gets dove by Johnny's, gets the middle Phoenix very cleanly like a hot knife through butter.
Would you believe it? That Eagles rally was the closest thing Sacred Speedbuff did towards a team fight this entire game. But two of their carries were dead. Optimus Gang looking to close this one out and will do so. We move on to game 2, knowing that Optimus Gang definitely won game 1 convincingly.
Very convincingly. It needs to go back to the drawing board as Sacred Speedbuff to figure out how they can get back into this set. A little bit of the picks and bans, but also a little bit of the play style. I think that the Raw Flippo misbuilt his items, didn't really go for the Warlock Staff rush. He was very easily able to die under every single tower dive. The Cerberus got a little bit too far behind, so he couldn't make the rotations and peel for his mid laner.
Gave him too much mobility is what the real thing is there. Amaterasu, Giannis, and Mercury, you're going to have a great game.
Well, you can play around that, honestly, because you can camp this Amaterasu. Bologna, that was proxy farming, had a good start versus the Amaterasu. The problem is the Ao Kuang is not like the most aggressive early game god. If you would get like another one such as Thor potentially, or just anyone that's going to be able to camp that soul lane, not an Ao Kuang, then you can maybe lean on that advantage, shut down Amaterasu, and then not have to worry about that mobility.
Well, let's get it back to John Finch and Taco to break down game 1.
Thank you, Hindu. Thank you, Toli. As we move into the post-game, talk a little bit about what just happened there. Optimus Gang looked really strong there in Game 1. In particular, Johnny had an excellent game there on that Mercury.
Sometimes there's a lot to say, and, well, sometimes the gameplay speaks for itself, and in the case of Optimus Gang, they were just all over it. Control completely in their favor, and I have to agree with what Toli was saying there. I mean, the Ao Kuang just did not provide the early game pressure that they really needed. There was a lack of assistance all across the map, and eventually it just ended up with Optimus Gang completely depriving every little bit of farm that you would have expected Speedbuff to maybe look for.
And it's really tough, too, because Johnny was the only one that was able to finish off kills eventually towards that mid-game part, but that's kind of all it was. He wasn't able to look aggressive on his own. Like, Johnny had so much pressure on Flippo in the mid lane, here in the duo lane, even having an impact with the Sonic Boom, that he was able to put multiple lanes behind. All Johnny was really able to do was keep himself relevant, and I feel like part of that has to be this Al Kwong pick. He wasn't able to really facilitate for the rest of the team.
It was just such a heavy amount of burst damage. As long as Johnny connected with that Sonic Boom, it was practically impossible for Optimus Gang to not follow it up. And even still, the Mercury damage was just absolutely insane. Normally, you'd expect Flippo as a Raw to have the sustain to make up for it, but when you're getting bursted that heavily, there's just nothing you can really do about it.
He was so far ahead, he was able to go Rage second item and immediately get that crit online. Then he had the Hasten Katana coming in too. There was just no way for them to peel the rest of the team away from this Mercury in the jungle. He had so much damage, he was able to stick to the likes of Flippo, stick to the rest of this team, and really just kind of punish them whenever he was given an opportunity.
And that's actually another really important distinction to bring up, is why the Rage over the Hasten Katana. I don't think it was necessarily even just the amount of lead he had over Fisher there, as much as it was the fact that, like, if you have the opportunity to build crit as a Mercury and go unpunished for it, you take that every single day of the week. And that was the case here for Johnny. There was really just no one to stop him from having as much control on this Mercury, from being able to pretty much snowball himself throughout this match. And the Hasten Katana only added to it. There wasn't a whole lot of interrupt on the side of Sacred Speed Buff, and overall, it just ended up being a case where they simply had no response for the amount of sheer damage that Optimus Gang kept putting out.
And it does free up the rest of the team as well, right? Ferrocrick has freedom on the Giannis to do basically whatever he wants. He's hitting big through space and times. You know, he's finding the unstable vortexes as well. When your jungler is able to have that much pressure, it really does free up the rest of the team to do that well. That's what we saw from Ferrocrick. Caspanify, to that same credit, was able to sort of start rotating around, find kills. He was able to get that good matchup up against the Raw, and then the rotation would come in from the Mercury to help him out as well. So Taco, at a certain point, it's yes, you can get some kills in that jungle, but how well can that impact the entire map?
It's not all doom and gloom, though, if you are Sacred Speed Buff. At the very least, they were able to respond with a few kills throughout the match. It wasn't a complete and total shutout. Had it been, you know, things might be looking a little bit different, but you can always take the positives from that match and just look forward to the next one. If you're Sacred Speed Buff, I think all that they really need to be prioritizing right now is just getting some pressure going between the mid and jungle. You can't just expect Flippo to do it all himself on the Raw. If he's going to pick a Raw, you need to have some kind of complementary jungler towards it, not the Al Kwong. There's just not enough pressure there.
Well, let's go ahead and see what kind of adjustments that they're going to try and make here, Taco. Picks and bans for Game 2 should be ready for you on the screen here in just a moment. And something does need to change here for Sacred Speed Buff. Optimus Gang really kind of rolled right to victory there. What, 23 minutes, 56 seconds, something along that?
It was pretty fast.
Yeah, relatively quick. Optimus Gang didn't have that many speed bumps in their way. Sacred Speed Buff are going to be the first pick selection this time, and already banning away that Artemis from Caspanify.
Makes sense, though, when you consider. I think even at one point you called out, that's got to feel so bad landing from the Astral Barrage straight into the Artemis trap, and couldn't agree with you more. But it's not an uncommon matchup. A lot of people are expecting that Artemis and Rom matchup to typically be in favor of the Artemis. If you're a Rom, all you're really looking to do in that sort of situation is acquire as much farm as possible and hope that the team fight is enough to take out the Artemis so you can start doing the regular Hunter things against everybody else, but that just never seemed to be the case there.
No, was never able to get to that point where he was able to swing quite the same way that Caspanify was, at least not in Game 1, so take that out of there and try and get yourself in a better spot, because now the Athena is available. That is what Sacred Speed Buff are going to prioritize with their first pick selection. That does mean the likes of Giannis are still out there and available. Terra was played very well last game, I believe, by Fusify, so there's definitely some strong picks, but no, this time Optimus Gang are going to pick the ROM for themselves.
I actually love this because of the fact that Sacred Speed Buff already banned the Artemis away, so you don't have to worry about the direct counter matchup. You can instead have the freedom to kind of control the lane the way that you want to, whether you want to stalemate it. That's all to be determined for Optimus Gang. They can go any direction now. They haven't really revealed too much out of their composition, other than maybe Rom, Giannis, not necessarily super early game gods, so Optimus Gang probably going to need to play it a little bit more safe.
Discordia going to come in along with the Xbalanque. Already, I'm liking the team fighting presence here from Sacred Speed Buff. The Discordia should give Flippo a few more options to try and get away than he had on the Raw if he's getting pressured out again by the jungler. The Xbalanque is great for the team fights as well. Even the Athena can come in. They shouldn't be getting all in maybe as much this time as they were in Game 1.
Well, there certainly won't be any direct 1v1s because Athena should be able to give a helping hand. There's no such thing as a 1v1 in competitive play. Everybody already knows that one as much as we like to joke about it. But I also really like the Kumbhakarna. If Athena is careless with those dash taunts, for example, she might just eat an epic uppercut to the face or even the Mesmerize. Really like that side of the interruption that Optimus Gang have going for them. There's also the Giannis portals to follow up off of those mezzes. And all in all, I really like this composition from Optimus Gang. The Xbalanque is going to be important, but even through the Astral Barrage, I believe Rom should still be able to maintain vision.
Wow.
So there is some call-out aspects to be left there also.
I don't know, man. I mean, Optimus Gang have the Rom and the Ao Kuang. This feels a little bit like those picks didn't do well for you all. Maybe we'll show you how to play them a little bit, right? I mean, Ao Kuang does not get picked that often. It is Johnny who likes to play it, yes, but I mean...
He's the original Ao Kuang, though, for the European SML. At least I can hand him that much, but...
That's fair.
I can totally get where you're seeing the whole, anything you can do, I can do better vibe.
Maybe a little bit of that here. Maybe. Obviously, we're not in the comms there with these players, but it just feels a little bit like that as the Ao Kuang comes in. It is going to be Unbots and Guan Yu, though, coming in response from Sacred Speed Buff. They've got some very strong picks in their own right. The Guan Yu with the heals, the Cavalry Charge is such good initiation. The Xbalanque Ultimate, Athena. I mean, they've got all the pieces here. Can they put them together, though, up against this Optimus Gang draft?
I'm not sure I'm as sold in Sacred Speed Buff's connecting abilities as much as I am on Optimus Gang, however, because Optimus Gang feels like they have a little bit more execution, no pun intended with the Ao Kuang there, but their composition definitely gives more leeway, I feel, for that execution factor, because if you're off the mark with that Fear No Evil, that's a huge part of your team fight already being stripped away.
Yeah, I mean, Optimus Gang feel a little bit more pick-oriented with the Ao Kuang, with the Giannis or Rom snipes from long range to finish off a target. Or rather, the Sacred Speed Buff, they really need the team fight to go well for them. At least that's how it feels looking at this draft on paper.
Yeah, I'm there with you every step of the way. I think that Sacred Speed Buff, they're going to have to make sure their execution is on point if they don't want to end up dropping this set to Optimus Gang.
And let's see what ends up happening. Will Optimus Gang get a bunch of picks and get off to a fast start, or can Sacred Speed Buff control the fights and end up making things go their way? We'll find out here with Hindu and with Tolu.
We really will. Hopefully, we get a better game out of Sacred Spirit here with the composition to put together this time round, Tolly. It's a little bit of a better situation. I like the Guan Yu towards the end to try and answer back a little bit of what Ao Kuang can do in this game. The heals do negate, executes.
Top yourself off a little bit above that threshold, and more importantly, it's also the comfort picks. Finally, Gutfisher going for his signature hunt bats as opposed to trying to strip away Johnny's Ao Kuang. Now, that gives Johnny his Ao Kuang, but at least they take away the Mercury. That global pressure was a little bit too much to handle. That global sonic boom down the duo lane to start off game number 1 was problematic.
Well, let's get into game and see if they can play a little bit better this time, Sacred Spirit. Or will Optimus Gang do a quick 2-0? Left-hand side, we're going to start things off with some pressure from Kaspanify and Fusify. They did it in game 1 with Terra and Artemis. But game 2, it's Amaterasu alongside the Rama. So it's a bit more of a kill lane, this one, Tom.
It definitely feels that way, but the last one was also a kill lane. If you think about it, Artemis is very powerful at looking for the boxing exchanges. It's just a different style. Fusify is not going to be able to root people in place, stun them afterwards, but certainly going to be able to amplify Kaspanify's damage on that one individual target. After 3 Amaterasu strikes, you debuff that target to have 10% increasing damage on all sources.
Like the fact they switched the Amaterasu with the Kumbhakarna too, just to deal with the Guan Yu. I do think Kumbhakarna has a bit of a better matchup against the Guan Yu, just for kill potential in the big grand scheme of things, because Guan Yu will probably terrorize that lane a little bit more so in the early stages.
It definitely feels that way. Now, keep in mind that the cooldown from the Telu Assault a little bit shorter than the Mighty Yawn, so that's going to be an important thing to bait out. And you could also
strike.
You could
Keep him out of the
also,
wave.
that's true.
Yeah.
You could also prevent him from just moving closer to the yard just to clear that wave. But there's a lot of little nuanced tricks you could do as Guan Yu, where you dash through the Kumbhakarna to group up the whole wave. So yeah, you could get rooted, but you'll still clear the wave.
Well, the focus was on trying to secure the purple buff, and Sacred Speed Buff managed to do that on the left-hand side here. But the pressure is all in favor of Optimus Gang on the left-hand side of the map. Mid lane, Johnny and Farrakrick now at level 2, joining that of Get Fisher and Flippo. Left-hand Harpies could be looked at by both teams as the red buff's down. We could see a fight over here.
Okay, Get Fisher throws out the monkey, bounces good strife into the unruly magic. Johnny can't even get in there to contest.
Biggest problem is no clear, and Flippo just stayed in range. So one of them stolen. It's a 1-for-1 trade, and the mid lane is now hit level 3 because of it.
It's going to be a good look for Get Fisher to keep himself on pace with Johnny. You can't allow this Ao Kuang to get off to the same start that Johnny did with the Mercury in game number 1. You're asking for even more trouble. The composition from Sacred Speed Buff relies on a lot of control there as Get Fisher tries to make it happen, slows Johnny in place.
Johnny's in trouble, and the portal used by Farrakrick puts him in a spot, but he gets outplayed by Johnny. Just better use of the Ao Kuang than that of the bats.
Get Fisher was holding his S key backwards away from the Ao Kuang instead of going forward to hit those basic attack. If you're going to run away,
If you're going to commit, you commit.
You either commit and keep chasing the Ao Kuang, or you turn around and you run away, because when you're facing the Ao Kuang and you're walking backwards, you're so much slower.
Very true indeed. Won't be the case now. Sibby, a little bit up against it in the early stages. The Guardians do take a little bit longer to get their wave clear online than most. That's why the early game can be a little bit dominant, even though Sibby can have some good matchups here. But Stevie on the Guan Yu in full control as the blue buffs are about to spawn. He may even look for a cheeky invade if he knows he can get away with it.
Definitely can, and this is the problem with a lot of Guardians, especially Kumbhakarna, because you're not going to clear the wave very effectively this early on. I like the fact that Stevie still playing aggressive, but recognizing this is Johnny trying to make his presence felt, alleviate some of this pressure to allow his Kumba get away from this laning phase.
Fisher was on the rotation too at the same time as he hits level 4. Slight lead for Johnny as he didn't fall down and he got that first blood, so he's going to have a bit more bonus gold and a bit closer to level 5 over that Hun Bats, which is going to be such importance when we get to the teamfight stage.
Definitely will be the case. Now, curious to see where his item rush is going to be. Probably Bancroft's talent after the boots. Get Fisher able to take away one of those mid Harpies. Still trying to avenge himself after that first blood.
Yeah, left-hand side, though, things working out a little bit better for Xbalanque now. The bowlers are online and are starting to swing, which causes a lot of free damage to connect with the dual lane of Optimus Gang. Epic Uppercut used by Sibby. This is just to try and force some abilities here as he hit level 5 a little bit earlier than that of Stevie, thanks to the blue buff being secured. But now Guan Yu has that cavalry charge. Things could change again.
It could, but without the teleport from Stevie, he's in a tricky spot. Sibby is very comfortable with his cooldown boots. Now, between Talu Assault and the Mez from Sibby, they're both 15 seconds, but now 10% cooldown reduction from Sibby. You're looking at about a 13.5-second yawn to negate the 15-second Talu Assault.
Yeah, Stevie's just got to stay safe for a minute and just keep using that conviction to top himself up in health for the next couple of waves. That's the main thing you can do there. You don't need to base right now. Just allow the pressure to go against you. Still has a health potion too, which he's not really been using much of at the moment in his inventory.
Trying to just stay alive is the name of the game, and baiting out from potentially his jungler to make a presence in this epic uppercut. It's going to be up very soon to try to go for round 2. If Sibby can connect on some of these belly bumps, then Stevie's going to be in for a rough time.
And this is where the lane kind of changes a little bit now in favor of the Kumbhakarna. Now he's got a bit more wave clear online, but Flippo in the jungle tries to hide inside the stealth unit, but picked off by Optimus Gang.
Without any vision realistically, even entering your own jungle, not a good place to be alone. Just now hitting level 5 was the Athena, and Johnny's here in the duo lane.
And Springer's going to get a kill on Pusify meanwhile, which is a nice little play from him. But as you said, Johnny's here, but he eats a fair no evil and a space and time. Farrakrick going to come around the corner, trying to make sure Fisher falls down. He has to beat the slow to try and escape, but Johnny can keep equal pace. The portal was so close, yet so far from helping to secure a kill.
Just out of range, Get Fisher with a speed buff, able to outpace the mobility from Giannis, even with Threshold amplifying some of that movement speed. Stevie in a world of hurt. He actually still has the cavalry charge. Could look to turn this one around, but Johnny kills Fisher.
Yeah, Fisher was just still in the jungle farming away, and Johnny sniffed it out and found the kill. Now he's a dragon in the sky. Looking at Flippo, who's trying to do the red buff. Flippo should know he was there. He had the apple. Johnny will survive, but now Flippo got to be a little bit more careful for a second. Good use of his ultimate there to try and pick up that kill on Johnny. One more ability would have been a kill.
Could have been a little bit more patient with his unruly magic afterwards. Wait for Johnny to commit to one place or the other. You have plenty of time to chase him down, but panicked a little bit, wanted to rush it. And without too much mobility, it's no surprise that Flippo is the primary target that Optimus Gang is able to abuse as he's just completed his Soul Reaver.
Fusify trying to be a nuisance around that purple buff. Won't be able to steal that away. But the one thing to note is Optimus Gang's Johnny has all 4 kills. They could have banned it in the counterban phase, totally. They chose the Hebo instead, and the Mercury. The Mercury makes sense, but get soloed.
Yes, this is the problem with Kumbhakarna. If you don't have the magical defense, he'll abuse you every single time before the conviction becomes that high of a level. Guan Yu just doesn't win this matchup. The Epic Uppercut is a very short cooldown in its own right, 75 seconds. You take off 7.5 from the 10% on Shoes of Focus. Also keep in mind, Mage's Blessing is another 10%, so you're looking at even a 60-second cooldown, which does a lot of base damage for even level 1. 325 base.
Early ult from Fusify there, worried about Lance Wolf using his. Space and Time fired round the back is now Springo and Lance Wolf on the run away. And Lance Wolf will be a casualty to the unstable Vortex. Johnny's in range to pick up the second kill in the duo lane. That puts him at 7-1. Fisher and Flippo on the rotation. But they're a little bit too late to find out their compatriots have died.
They're just kind of like watching from a distance, not making any sort of impact whatsoever as Johnny is getting the left side mid Harpies. One of them stripped away by Get Fisher. But there needs to be more than that kind of a play. There needs to be plays like this.
Fire Cricket a little bit too far forward, has no space and time. Don't get overly cocky there, my son, is what Fisher just said, because that's what they did. Optimus Gang, no, trying to answer back with a Gold Fury.
We'll get it. Guaranteed play. Tactical feeding by not only Fusify, but also by Farrakrick.
That was awful.
If Farrakrick doesn't put himself in mid lane to eat the Golden Apple of Discordia and the Fear No Evil, then Optimus Gang has to worry about those 2 ultimates during the Gold Fury fight. That's what Farrakrick was doing.
Sibby's still up against Steefy here, and Sibby doing a good time of things. He's gone for plenty of protections in this lane as well. Look at that build total.
It's a lot. Going for the tier 2 silver breastplate gives you about 35 physical protection for 950 gold. It's good in terms of its efficiency, and then even go for the tier 1 version of it for 500 gold at 20 protection. So overall, you're looking at about 1450 gold for 55 physical protection. That's very efficient.
Johnny's here, and Steefy now knows he's under pressure. Won't find the damage though, will Johnny? And now Johnny's under pressure even more so. He used the illusion already. Outplayed and mistakes were made. Sibby doesn't have his ultimate, and in comes Lance Wolf.
Get Fisher trying to set up for the Defender of Olympus, but a good mighty yawn from Sibby will prevent it. This is the one problem if you get a little bit too confident against the Guan Yu. He tops himself off, he gets the CC immunity. Sibby missing out his ultimate, but he's still feeling confident to take this 1v2.
Yeah, and he's getting some good damage off on Steefy yet again in this lane, and Lance Wolf can't really move anywhere else. Interesting lane matchup, but Sibby's definitely the dominant one there. Left-hand side, Springer, though, left in a 2v1 because Lance Wolf has sat on that right-hand side for so long. He's going to use the ultimate defensively as Farrakrick once again. A little bit too far forward, going to be forced to ult defensively.
A lot of damage from this Discordia, sitting at level 10 with the Pen Boots and the Soul Reaver, is able to pack quite the punch against this level 10 Giannis. That's also a glass cannon going for the Chronos Pennant. This is the one advantage that Sacred Speed Buff has, is just the over-aggression from both Farrakrick and Johnny is getting punished.
It is indeed. 7-3 then. Gold lead of about 2,000 in favor of Optimus Gang as they freeze the wave in the duo lane, trying to make sure that Springer has to overextend to try and get that farm. But he's got Lance Wolf coming with him now. Lance Wolf equal level with Fusify, but a little bit further behind is Springer than that of Kispanify, thanks to all this pressure.
Oh, good silence onto Springer. Gonna prevent the dash, and just like that,
you can kill him.
Less than 33% health. Johnny gets overhand smashed, though.
Well, the snipes out from Kispanify forces the shell out from Lance Wolf, too. Still in the jungle, though. Farrakrick going aggressive, getting engaged on again by Fisher, but the pole usage was wise from Farrakrick, but he's still hanging around for a bait and finds it. Space and time, and the unstable Vortex was used as Kispanify will go 1-for-1 with Springer, and Lance Wolf can only get an assist.
Overall, it was a 2-for-2 at the end of the day as Kaspanify took a 1v2 willingly, knowing that he had the damage to kill Kaspanify.
Now this time, though, Lance Wolf going for the Heartwood, I mean, I'm okay with. Because he's dealing more, he's going to be dealing more with a lot of the Giannis, the Kumbhakana, and of course the Ao Kwang. So that magical resistance will help out a little bit more in the team fights.
I definitely agree with you. Now, last game, he got the Heartwood Amulet after the Jade Emperor's Crown, was a little worried about the Mercury this time around. Needs to prioritize the Heartwood a little bit faster. So we'll see what his physical defense item of choice will be. Probably not going to be the Gauntlet of Thebes, considering you either get it early or never, because stacking 50 stacks for assist stacks will take quite a long time. You don't really want to be waiting around too long for that one. Meanwhile, already finishing off the item is Fusify, just needs to wait for those 50 stacks before the next team fight.
A little bit of a better game from Sacred Speed Buff. They've got a couple more kills under their belt at the moment. Still feel Flippo struggling in this mid lane, having a hard time of things, but he's getting good damage off so far as he tries to make a play on his own. But now he's a little bit far forward and the collapse is on. Flippo needs some help and gets it from Fisher with that Fear No Evil. But the combination of abilities from Optimus Gang could kill the cheeky monkey. And it's an unstable vortex that ends his day.
So much CC and disruption. Stevie makes his way on the horse, but he's not sticking on Johnny. The call is to dismiss and back off because Flippo too low. Execute from Johnny still available. And without purification beads, this Discordia is the primary target.
Optimus Gang going to invade the red buff as meanwhile Stevie surrounded with Lance Wolf in tow. Good time from Lance Wolf trying to slow them down and does so. The red buff is stolen, and now in the jungle, Kaspanify and Springer will meet too. Being chased down is Springer as he's used the Rising Jaguar. Johnny's on the way as well, and this is a low health bar for Springer. Johnny has his ult, as does Kaspanify. And the last shot will be good enough.
Needs to go left, right, up, down to avoid all these snipes and even some of the dragons from Johnny in no man's land on his tier 2 tower, whether Springer's playing the Rom or the Shibalange. He's been having a rough set, trying to survive for dear life every moment.
Left-hand side, Lance Wolf going to turn onto Kaspanify. Get Fisher is here in support. Kaspanify does not have his ultimate, remember, and very low on mana. He needs some help soon, but he's trying to get a kill. Lance Wolf is slow low. Johnny could pick that one up, but he's going to have to dive the tower for it. And Fisher is
thinking
still
about
around.
He's thinking about it. He needs to find the execute. He gets it off. He's going to get the health as
heal,
well. Yeah. That health, so important. Getting another stack.
Should save him, right? Yeah, it will. But he might get caught in the jungle, actually, because he went for the back harpies at the same time. Nope, we'll get away because Springer was a little bit late on trying to rotate round to that. 13-6 then, 13.5 minutes in. Bit of a bloodbath this one compared to last game that started so slow.
19 deaths in about 14 minutes total between these two teams. They're not afraid to just fight fire with fire as Stevie in a position to look for the invade, but a good timed Mighty Yawn out of Sibi will protect his own blue buff with a 2-level advantage. This Kumbhakarna has so many opportunity for aggression just like this. He has a 40% cooldown reduction with his Breastplate of Valor completed.
And you've got nothing you can really do in this lane as a Guan Yu. Once you've used your dash, you're kind of out of it unless you want to use the cavalry charge. But at the moment, it's all just about farm. They're not going to kill each other at this stage, totally. They shouldn't.
Sibi could easily still kill Stevie,
really?
even with maxed out conviction. In the mid lane, Farrakrick, though, no relics. His bees was coming up in 3 seconds.
Needed to ult earlier on if you wanted to survive, but Fusify in the jungle now caught in an awkward position. Fisher, no fear, no evil, but a lot of pressure onto the Amaterasu, going to force out the ultimate as Johnny was around too, but the apple will do the damage. Shell saves the day. Right-hand side, though, you saw the cavalry charge used by Stevie. Him and Stevie still going at it on the right. Kaspanify in the sky, looking for the snipes on Lance Wolf. Won't be able to get enough damage off. Just one more hit would have done it. Maybe Johnny can find it. He had the blink, but he won't be going in.
He's holding on to it for the moment, waiting for Get Fisher potentially if he really wants to. Flippo right around the corner, hitting the Unruly Magic, taking about 25 to 33% health of the Ao Kwang. Still boxing is the solo lanes. Whenever a jungler looks at these health bars, there needs to be some sort of rotation, but with that much action in the mid lane, it makes sense as to why Johnny and Get Fisher couldn't make that happen.
So now the Gold Fury is still available again. The first one going the way of Optimus Gang, making this a 4K gold lead so far. Are you feeling confident in the Sacred Speed Buff with how this game's looking, Tolly?
So far, it's not the same that it was in the last game. They're still holding off their own. They have some opportunities with Get Fisher looking for the counter engages as he does have a 1-level lead over Johnny, sitting at level 13, but still having a lot of items and a lot of damage potentially. Steefy in a bad position.
And Steefy going to take a ride that he doesn't really want to go on. Back to base at the moment. He was looking to try and check the jungle. Speedbuff's about to spawn for Johnny though, and Fisher's here. And Johnny actually used the wards, I guess. It was either wards, it was just map vision more than anything of catching the monkey around here. Somersault used and blink to get away. Space and time for Chase.
Trying to use that ultimate defensively. Good patience from Johnny, not getting hit by that ultimate. Still diving the backline for the execution.
And now Flippo is in trouble. Lance Wolf is nearby, but the half health bars from Optimus Gang may make them choose differently on continuing that aggression as Kaspanify gets a tier 1 tower on the left. Starting to get out of hand again now. Optimus Gang starting to clump up a little bit easier and quicker than out of the speed buff, and it's not working out for the speed buff.
Just too aggressive in the enemy jungle without much assistance. Steefy by the enemy blue gets picked off. Get Fisher by the enemy speed buff has to use his ultimate defensively, his blink defensively against the aggression, and then he ultimately falls, allowing Optimus Gang to go for their second Gold Fury.
Good turn from Lance, puts some pressure on Sibby, but he's so tanky it's hard to bring him down. However, the damage from Flippo's really going to hurt as he doesn't have any magical protection, and that will be the life of Sibby given over to Flippo.
That's fine if you're Optimus Gang. Giving up your soul laner, 40-second respawn. I don't think that's enough time for Sacred Speed Buff to get much. They could definitely get at least a tier 1 mid tower, but not much more than that.
Well, they're going to focus the tier 1 tower minions. They've got one left at the moment. Springer was stacking up space and time. Hit Springer. Kaspanify following that up. Going to get the shell out from Speed Buff. Now into the sky goes the Roma, trying to kill off the Jabberwocky. Won't find it as Johnny picks up Lance Wolf. Get Fisher, avoids the unstable vortex. And Sacred Speed Buff on the run after getting the tier 1 tower and losing Lance Wolf.
Good accuracy coming from Farrakrick. Being able to hit the Jabberwocky, forcing him out of the team fight. Losing a lot of DPS with Sacred Speed Buff. And wow, Johnny is everywhere.
Yep.
Not allowing his opposition to breathe.
I completely get it. If you're scared of an Ao Kuang that's played so well by Johnny, just ban it. If you don't want to pick it yourself as well, it can mess up your composition sometimes. But Johnny is just...
my God.
Well, that's
just outplayed.
That's another one for Fisher's highlight reel of his Smite career. I'll tell you that much. Nice play from Johnny. Just turns around, 180, throws out the damage, execute. Jobs are good, and no beads available for Fisher as he jumped in there. Makes it 18-8. That was painful.
That's a feels bad man moment. Yeah. You got to be considering going for Mad Guy's Cloak at this point. If you're caught without beads, for both of these junglers, you're ultimately dead. Now, Johnny's positioning himself aggressively as well, but he's an Ao Kuang that has a little bit more burst damage than the Hunt Bats. There's not the same wind-up time from the overhand smash to get off the damage. A little bit of a double tap there from the Fire Giant. MVP play.
Fire Giant goes down. Optimus Gang get that. Now they're going to get the Pyromancer 2, and it's all about the tier 2 towers. After that, the build and gold lead is starting to get massively out of control now. It's 9,000 for both experience and gold. Sorry, changed my mind. 10,000 for experience, and it just ticks over. And this is looking awkward for Sacred Speed Buff at the bottom of the minor league. You can see why.
The thing is, they're good, like, talented players every now and then as Get Fisher caught between 4 members. The problem is they're not playing like a cohesive unit. Everyone is just kind of doing their own thing. It seems like they're almost mentally checked out. Somebody needs to be communicating things in the background.
Johnny gets another kill on Springer, who was just a little bit too far forward. The rest of his team just hugging the Phoenix as the first tier 2 tower falls in the mid lane. Optimus Gang not going to rotate for a second. They're going to try and pressure this Phoenix and look to get some more kills.
It's going to be going down very quickly because Kaspanify very high level, and that's why Steefy's dove the backline with a cavalry charge, trying to get him out of the equation early. Flippo aiming his apple, but no one wants to eat it.
Meanwhile, Steefy does end up falling after the cavalry charge, tried to make something happen, but won't be the case this time round. Optimus Gang going to fall back, heal up a little bit. With that Fire Giant buff, maybe just strip some of the jungle now after doing the damage of getting that middle Phoenix.
Now, on paper, this matchup has definitely played considering the standings. Number 2 Optimus Gang versus number 6 Sacred Speed Buff, but there still have been some good offensive plays from Sacred Speed Buff that they can feel good about after the game. They just need to worry about how they deal with the counter aggression. When you have the momentum and everything is looking good, then teams are so used to winning off of ranked games anyway, so you just follow, rinse, and repeat. But when you're ultimately challenged, that's when your true test of character is coming out.
Fisher goes in alone and gets a kill on Kaspanify. Good little pickup with that Fear No Evil, actually, knowing the beats were down from Kaspanify.
That's the communication that needed to be executed. You got the Shibalanke ultimate Darkest of Nights to allow Get Fisher to dive the backline while there's so much confusion and chaos. Buy Sacred Speed buff at least another 30 seconds while Caspanify is reviving.
Sibby trying to deal with 2 targets and that long gold yawn. When you're a level 20 Kumba corner, it can feel like half a century for your enemies to actually get out of being sleepy, so he'll be able to escape quite easily for the time being. The good news for Sacred Speed buff is because they killed Caspanify, this Fire Giant buff now will probably be all she wrote, and we'll have to wait for the next one. But that's not up for another 2 minutes, whereas the Gold Fury is up in 30 seconds.
Optimus Gang still gets the middle Phoenix before that left side attempt, so that'll allow some Fire Minions to flood down that lane during the next Fire Giant attempt as well. Gold Fury coming up in 15 seconds. Optimus Gang are still without 6 items. Keep that in mind while they're going to look for their final siege push.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next time with all those 6 items built. All those Soul Reavers as well, oh my. Causing more problems. Johnny with 1. Giannis with 1 for Farah Quick, and then Sibby also. If only Fusify could get 1, man. Why
If
not?
only.
If only.
Let's just give him a GM command to switch his character class.
I don't think he needs any more help in this game, to be honest, with how he's looking so far. Gold Fury goes down, and Optimus Gang back on the aggressive again. Left-hand Phoenix, definitely the preferred one, as it's the furthest away from the Fire Giant.
It's definitely going to be looked at. Fire Giant's still around some members' waist for 30 seconds, but not on Caspanify. He won't have that extra 20% structure damage going in. Nice Strife and Unruly Magic. It has to second guess how Optimus Gang goes about this one with only 20 seconds remaining on the buff.
Now, what happens next then? Do Optimus Gang continue the siege? They're hanging around thinking about it. Caspanify going to heal up in the jungle, using those Devourer's Gauntlets and those back copies to his advantage. Johnny trying to pressure Flippo in the mid lane with those Fire Minions, and Get Fisher just used the Sacred Monkey Toss and jump to it, so that's on
blinks
cooldown.
in, looks for the Mighty Yawn, but Get Fisher blinks right past him, goes in the backline, and gets Caspanify out of the fight.
Looking for the snipes on Fisher, though, and Fisher out of the fight for a second. Space and time came through, but didn't really find a target from Farrakrick. Johnny trying to float around the back and pick up the remnants of the stragglers who were injured, but good defense out of Springer will stop that.
Poison Dart's not on the mark onto Johnny, still holding on to that left side Phoenix. The call from Optimus Gang was disengage, realizing that their ultimates, or rather that their Fire Giant buff has finally fizzled away. Going for the second Fire Giant. Won't be the enhanced one because it's not going to spawn after the 25-minute mark, but still going to be important to have under their waist to look for these Phoenixes and to assist with some of these Phoenixes. Fusify picking up the Talisman of Energy, which got a recent bit of changes in 5.9 as the aura radius effect goes from 55 to 70, so it helps your hunters a little bit more while you're still looking for the dive. Also very important to note that the stacks from the max stacks going from 5 to 6, and the duration of it went from 6 to 8 seconds, making this a more popular item to close out games.
Yeah, definitely helpful for chasing down around Phoenixes. Fire Giant spawns, and talking about Phoenixes, the middle one has respawned at the same time, but it is injured. And the pressure on the left-hand side, you can see Fusify just pushing up waves, Sibby in mid, pushing up the waves, and the last 3 characters, the damage dealers, picking themselves up a Fire Giant.
Look at all these sentry wards on the left side. Optimus Gang that planted over there. Meanwhile, Sacred Speed buff trying to control the right side of the map with their own sentry wards. Wanting to also see some of these flanking opportunities. It's a good idea to control that little space between your Phoenixes where you want to hide as a mid-mage and look for the strifes over the wall, the unruly magics, and if you control that vision, then the enemy team might get caught slipping, just like the way they did where Caspanify got hit. He got messed alongside his teammate, and it allowed for easy follow-up damage.
30 kills in the game then as we approach 25 minutes in. The slowdown is almost over because the minions are on the way, as are Optimus Gang. Sacred Speed buff, it's 25 minutes in, so one good team fight, one dear side of Optimus Gang. They can get themselves back into this game by shredding down some of these towers and getting the Phoenix 2 quite easily doable, but they have to do well in the team fight. Beats down for Caspanify for 20 seconds is quite important. Get Fisher wants to try and, well, honestly, it would have been nice for him to initiate early, but Optimus Gang didn't present the opportunity.
It definitely will help if they get a DSI, but there are 4.5 items versus 6. In goes Get Fisher, takes out Caspanify. Without the Hunter, this is a great look.
Yeah, it is a great look as the apple comes out onto Fusify too. Steefy in there with the cavalry charge, hitting Johnny and Fusify, but Farrakrick managed to find the kill with the space and time onto Get Fisher. That makes it a 1-for-1 exchange. Now the pressure in as the rest of Optimus Gang start committing.
4 on 4. Fusify goes in. Springer gets eliminated by the Amaterasu support. A good little strife, but Sibby doesn't care. He's a Kumakarna.
Well, they're just diving in for kills at the moment. The Phoenixes are still alive as Johnny gets the kill on Steefy. Only Lance Wolf left alive. They have to fall back to get the Phoenix first of all before they can even look to try and close out this game. But now the Phoenix has fallen. They're going to pick up Lance Wolf.
They're going to go for the Dia side. Portal comes through. The body blocks are trying to show off. And there it goes. Ferricrick with the last kill of the game. Second game going the way of Optimus Gang. Winning after even losing Caspanify. Who needs a Hunter to close out the game?
Well, not in Season 5, that's for sure. 26-10, 26 minutes in. Kill a minute for Optimus Gang, and they close out Game 2 and the set this week.
Johnny, outstanding performance, whether it was the Mercury or the Ao Kuang, going for this late hyper carry style jungler really pans out when you got a supporting cast around you being able to hold your own. It was a calculated effort of going for an aggressive duo lane so you controlled that matchup. Flippo, luckily enough, didn't have mobility, so him getting caught in the early game definitely helps Johnny transition to the later stages. And then Sibby being able to solo out Steefy as well. All 3 lanes allowed Johnny to do whatever he wanted.
Well, Sacred's people have tried to do what they could, but it wasn't good enough today. Good performance then from Optimus Gang, but let's throw it to the desk to break it down.
Thank you, Hindu. Thank you, Toli, Finch, and Taco. Going to break down what we just saw in that game. What we just saw was Optimus Gang continuing to look like the second best team in the Europe SML. And Signum are hard to catch, but Optimus Gang are right there.
It all starts, though, at that level 3 engagement for me. I think Fisher was still sitting at level 2 when he tries to take up a boxing match pretty much against Johnny and loses horrendously. I mean, against home bats into the Ao Kuang, you're never going to come out on top there. I'm just not really sure what he was thinking.
It definitely felt like he was a little bit in between on what exactly he wanted to do because he was kind of backpedaling during that fight, and Ao Kuang Auto is probably a little bit better, especially if he's able to, get his abilities off in that. I mean, I don't know. It's tough, and he does end up falling there, and we do see Johnny do a great job yet again, not just getting himself ahead, but coming over and impacting duo, coming over and impacting mid again, and making sure the rest of his team is enjoying some of that lead too. Now, yet again, Get Fisher did a good job staying even experience-wise, but definitely not impact-wise.
Impact-wise, definitely more to be desired there on the side of Sacred Speed Buff, but I think that was overall as a whole team, they just were never really able to bring it together as well as what we saw from Optimus Gang. I think Optimus Gang just felt a little bit more clean. They felt a little bit more comfortable with each other,
yes,
which is important because the follow-up that they would go for every single time, it was very precise, and that was a big thing for me about Optimus Gang. That was part of the reason why I could see this team and understand why they're in their current second place position, because they're right on the cusp of catching up to Insignum. Not that they are going to be able to
they can't overtake
contend with the land by any means, but maybe in the next split we might see a little bit more contention between Optimus Gang and Insignum for that top place position.
That's the only team they've lost to so far is that Insignum roster. But to be fair, I want to give credit to more than just Johnny. I mean, in this game, Sibby on the Kumbhakarna in the solo lane really was just kind of running it even by himself. Got a couple good rotations from Johnny, yes, but he was just out in front over Steefy that whole time. It felt like on the Guan Yu. I mean, is Kumba that strong in lane, or I guess he can?
Kumbhakarna is just really strong against the Guan Yu, I think. It's a very risk versus reward option, though, over in the solo lane, because on the one hand, into the Guan Yu, because of the fact that Guan kind of struggles a little bit during the earlier stages, or at least the earlier levels of that laning phase. So you have the Mez for the Talo Assault. You have the Groggy Strike also that can help you with clearing the wave.
Yeah.
And I think the Epic Uppercut made things a little bit too chaotic for Sacred Speed Buff to handle in those team fights. They just weren't really certain of which direction to try and commit to. And I just love the zoning control that Sibby was able to maintain.
Yeah, there were definitely some times where he was able to interrupt the Talu Assault and set up some kills. I mean, that damage was clearly there from the Kumbhakarna. He had a defense on the blue buff that was really impressive, where he mezzes right at the perfect time to leave the buff just about to die. He's able to get it and get back out to defend his buff. I mean, Sibby definitely had some excellent plays. So did Ferricrick as well in the mid lane for him. I mean, Optimus Gang, really from front to back, just looked very clean today.
And I know that I don't want to toot Johnny's horn too much, because gotta keep the SML players' egos in check. But all jokes aside, I just really think Johnny is one of the only players that can pick Ao Kuang consistently
Yes.
and make it work every single time. He just always seems to get ahead, and I think here Sacred Speed Buff focused a little bit too much on trying to make sure that the crowd control was there because they were lacking in that for the first game. They go a little overboard with it in the second game, and they don't make enough follow-up execution for the burst damage that they needed to acquire the kills during those team fighting moments. And once you fell, or once Sacred Speed Buff fell so far behind, then it became practically impossible for them to have a break-even grounding with Optimus Gang. And in the end, well, we all know what happened. Optimus Gang won this set 2-0.
Not just too far ahead. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at how everyone is shaken up after that game that we just got to watch. We told you before that Optimus Gang were right there next to Insignum in the standings. You can see what we're talking about. 6 wins, pretty far ahead of everyone else in the SML. Just unfortunately, Insignum are that bit ahead of them as well, already with that 7-0 slash line.
It's the same thing for both sides of the world. I mean, you got North America, very nice to me, leading 8-0. Not a single loss to their name, and you already said it, Insignum with the 7-0, Optimus Gang and Armada doing everything they can to try and keep up.
But definitely showing that they're right there at that cusp of being able to contend, I think, for that first spot as they continue to fight out to the minor league. This is going to be the schedule for the rest of the week. Again, this was just the first game here on Tuesday where Optimus Gang were able to come out in 2-0. Very nice to be playing against Cryptic again tomorrow. I believe that's the first and third place matchup. Poppies against Fear No Evil on Thursday. And then Armada up against Sanguine on Friday. So a real stacked week of good matchups.
And Team Cryptic, I think, have a chance to be a bit of a dark horse here against Very Nice to Me. You never know what to expect. If Very Nice to Me aren't on their A game, I think that Team Cryptic has the opportunity to maybe take a match off of them.
It's a chance. Maybe they can get it. They can catch them sleeping, but it's just not that easy. I mean, Very Nice to Be such a strong team, but a lot of our strongest teams, at least from the SPL, are trying to make their way towards HRX Taco. That's at the end of the year, November 16th through 18th at DreamHack. So don't miss the biggest event of the year. It's written right there on the screen, so you do not want to miss it. Tickets are on sale right now.
And come on down to Atlanta and say hey to some of your favorite players, the fans, and just getting to meet people and get a little bit of mix and mingle, hang out with some video games for the weekend, and have a really good time.
Yeah, just hang out with some fellow gamers. Watch the SMITE World Championship, the Console World Championship. Paladins will be there as well. Paladins World Championship and Paladins Console. So just a ton of high-res esports action that you'll get a chance to see there, Taco.
And you also never really know what else is going to happen there. I'm not going to allude to anything just yet, but maybe that's a little bit of a hint. Who knows?
Yeah, that's right. Maybe if you come in, you'll get to see a little bit of extra. Maybe Taco's the one that's going to be doing that, I imagine, right?
Of course. Always.
Always. Well, the SPL is what's going to be coming up next. Not just yet. That'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern. You want to check back in to see all the exciting matchups that we have there. That is going to do it for us on the SML broadcast. So make sure you check back. Mixer.com/SmiteGame, and we'll see you then.